All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this morning's coverage of NASCAR Cup Series practice and qualifying at the Watkins Glen International for this weekend's running of the Go Bowling at the Glen. We got a doubleheader here today, as of course practice qualifying stream just starting right now. Our NASCAR Xfinity Series race coverage will be starting a little bit later on as well. First couple laps of practice have just began. Group practice at that. Each of these two groups will get 20 minutes of practice on this 2.5 mile, well, 2.45 mile road course. And we've got new tires, obviously, that are being tested out here this weekend. The option tire is back. First time we're seeing it on a road course. So it'll be interesting to see how this is going to take at this racetrack. We've seen it at flatter, shorter tracks already this year with the option tire in play at both Richmond and the All-Star race at North Wilkesboro. And although this is a road course, not a lot of banked corners here at Watkins Glen. A lot of elevation changes, but not a lot of banking in the turns themselves. So I would assume we'll see very similar fall off, as so far in practice we have seen a little over half a second of fall off in just these first 4 or 5 laps or so that have been completed by the field. Tyler Reddick leads the way as of right now. He's about 700ths of a second faster than the second closest driver to his lap time, which is currently Ross Chastain. Kyle Larson is third, Shane Van Gisbergen in fourth, Denny Hamlin fifth, Joey Logano sixth, Ryan Blaney seventh, Corey LaJoie eighth, Noah Gragson ninth, and Michael McDowell is 10th. The group practice and qualifying is, of course, here for practice and qualifying. The only difference is I believe when we go into the qualifying portion of the stream, it's going to be open qualifying. It will be timed, just like we've seen in previous years with qualifying on the road courses. Really have had this like group qualifying on timed sessions for time trials for the road courses in NASCAR for the last probably better part of a decade at this point. So that will be coming up, but they will be in their respected groups when that time session does begin. So these Group A drivers will go up against Group A drivers just as they are here in practice. 11 minutes to go in the session right now. Again, Tyler Reddick the fastest.
Did not make the playoffs.
And you can also listen. Let me mention real quick. Also, you can listen to practice and qualifying's coverage on NBC Sports app. I thought it was going to be on USA Network today. I was actually trying to find it, and I couldn't find it. I'm like, oh, you know what? It's probably on the app, and that's exactly the case. So again, NBC Sports app is where you can watch the coverage visually here today.
Chastain wants to be part of that conversation, but that'll have to wait till 25. A challenging year for Ross, not making the playoffs, and here he comes now up through the S's. He's going to go a bit wide in 2. Normally they hug those rumble strips. And even though we hooked them right there in 3, normally the drivers are tighter. Ross in here for the entry of the bus stop. Smoothly through there this time, and watch him at the exit of turn number out of the bus stop here, all the way on that thing. Smoother this time through the carousel, able to keep it more to the right. That's what you want. That's the angle you want. Drifts that left rear out just a little bit, but smoothly off of 5 and all the way out to the guardrails, Chastain. That was using every bit of available asphalt. I want to take you back a moment ago and show you something between Corey LaJoie and Noah Gragson. Oh, on the inside of Corey. Oh, wow, big lockup there.
Good job keeping it off of him.
That was a crash that didn't happen. A little bit of rear wheel lockup. We see that many times when someone's trying to outbrake another. Well, actually locked the rear tires up. No more. Is Chris pushing back, man? He's coming your way. He is headed downhill into 2. Of course, he gets momentum. The car shifts from side to side. And the smoother you can make that transition, the more speed you'll create right now where he is coming out of turn 4. Smoothly on to the backstretch. And Pusher, he moves down towards us here in turn number 5. Charges the entry to the bus stop smoothly through the right double left and then right complex. And into turn 5, long way around the carousel for Chris Buescher, who's been strong on road courses of the next-gen era, tied with Tyler Reddick for the most top 10 finishes in this car. So he's a sneaky good road course racer. Sneaky good and sneaky consistent. Buescher into turn 6, the left-hander, heading to turn 7 to right. And check this out on the bottom right. Busy feet here at Watkins Glen. No clutch being used. They can do all the shifting just by flipping the throttle. You see it right there on his right foot. That shiny pedal brake. You're going to see right here, maybe one pump. Nope, directly into the braking. Tap the throttle on the downshifts. How about the spring over top of the brake pedal, Steve? That's something that the teams can add if they want it. You can adjust that spring a little bit. Some drivers like a heavy feeling pedal, some like one that's not. And what it also does is it prevents you from resting your foot on the brake pedal and putting a little bit of braking into the brake system that you don't even know that you're doing. At the moment, Chris Buescher holds down the 14th best time. And look who's in front of him. Look who is back in the NASCAR Cup Series. It's JPM, Juan Pablo Montoya, a winner here at Watkins Glen, the two-time Indy 500 winner, Formula One Grand Prix winner, IMSA champion. He's back, and he's excited to be back just for this one-off. You know, Juan Pablo Montoya, great race car driver, won races all over the world, won some Cup races. Fun to have him back. Great personality, intense racer. And I'm sitting looking at lap times. I'm impressed big time. And he's only 13th fastest, but if you look at his ninth lap, it is right on par with SVG. It's right on par, faster than Logano, faster than Blaney. Really good pace right here for Juan Pablo. Watching him through turns 3 and 4, it's almost like he never left. Ran his last Cup race 10 years ago, but right now standing tall in the saddle so far in this early party. He made some interesting comments in the media center earlier. Said, I'm going to race all of these drivers, including the playoff drivers, how they race me, but he is here to win this race, not just ride around and return to the Cup Series without being competitive. So great to have JPM back in the field if he works out at turn number 5. Young race car driver, turning 49 next week. Yeah. Just at the beginning of his career, when 2311 asked him to do it, he said, why not? People have been asking him, why are you doing it? And he said, why not do it? Last lap, he just ran and was faster than Tyler Reddick's. He's in that paint scheme that celebrates Mobil 1's 50th anniversary. And he also told us a little bit earlier that his very first sponsor in Columbia was Mobil 1. So this is a full circle moment for him. It's a good-looking race car, and as it comes into the S's, Juan's very smooth. He's always been smooth here at Watkins Glen. He doesn't ask for the car that it's giving him, or that it can give him. Right now, he is maximizing the equipment, Dylan, and the speed all at the same time. Looking good for sure. He works down this back straightaway out of the S's, and here comes the bus stop. A little bit of a bobble there as he charges the entry once again. Looks like he's trying to track down Chastain. Indeed, that's the car in front of him. And Montoya works out of the bus stop through the right-handed carousel. And there's Chastain just a few car lengths ahead of him as he exits 5. Jeff, you mentioned his pace on the older tires. It is very impressive for Montoya on board now with SVG in the bus stop. SVG, I think he also has decent pace. I'm very interested to see how he runs here, because I consider this a little bit of a home track for the NASCAR regulars, just because Watkins Glen has been on the schedule for so long. So good on the streets of Chicago, but I feel like that's like an away game for these Star Car regulars. We'll see how they stack up here, Kim.
Yeah, and I talked with SVG this morning. He said they probably do have a little bit of an advantage on him, but he was hoping playing double duty would level the field, just that extra seat time. He said his prep for this weekend has been the most intense of the year, doing both of these races, not knowing much about this track. Now, he did run here in a GT car in 2017, but he said it was too different, so he cannot lean on any of that experience. Actually, he's been spending the most time with Ross Chastain this week. They've talked a lot, been bouncing ideas back and forth, and he likened this track to Phillip Island GP circuit. That's somewhere he raced a lot in Australia in supercars. He said back then it reminds him of that track, that circuit, but just with walls.
Here he comes out of 4, watching his throttle, watching his braking, and the gearing, Dylan. Very fascinating seeing him maximize his equipment. Yeah, and he is so smooth as you watch him come through this part of the racetrack. Somebody off in the dirt in front of him, able to get through that with no problem, but smooth with the pedals, smooth with the steering wheels. He navigates the carousel, and smooth with the gearbox as well. All things important to make it this car last 90 laps tomorrow. Spent a little bit of time with Shane Van Gisbergen yesterday afternoon. He's like, Well, my cup results have been pretty ordinary so far. He said that's something I'd like to change this weekend as I get more and more experience. But to Kip's point, he's loving doing the double. He'll be a threat in this race for sure. I have no doubt about it. He's just a world-class road racer. Denny Hamlin, after just it's odd. Can I call it odd? What do I five? Denny Hamlin's Atlanta, right? Rides around in the back. That's strategy. Says he's trying to score some points. Gets in a record camp. Ends up scoring like 13 points. Now he's barely above the cut line. Comes to a road course where his numbers at road courses this
Not
year,
good.
he's not scored a lot of points at the road course. Currently 5th on the speed chart, Jeff. Well, if it does turn into a tire management race, which now the tires have slowed down well over 2 seconds, almost 3 seconds, Denny's tire management's always been his strength. Yeah, you mentioned last week, it all started in qualifying. They pull out on the racetrack and it just won't run. And they found a plug wire. They fixed it and then rode around all day and then gets in this wreck late in the event, which was what he was trying to avoid. He rode around. And the reason he rode around is because he hasn't been gaining points at style racetracks. So his decision, as he spins at practice, the decision was to ride around and
Snowballing.
Get respect because he's playing the mat. He's saying, hey, we had got good points, so I'm just going to ride around, get a decent finish. The problem with that, Steve, his average finish at these tracks hasn't been very good. You can see another car getting loose on corner entry, overcorrecting. Fortunately, no contact. So watch him. He's in trouble now. Way before he got to the corner. You mentioned the pace on old tires. Everybody that I spoke to that was at the test with this tire said the grip came out of the rear tires. Yep. That's where it came out. So listen, just simply loose on entry, a loss of rear grip, and spins out on corner entry. That's all by himself. Yeah. So this is what the thought is, Kim, going into this weekend. What if you're trying to pass somebody late in the run and you start losing rear grip? How do you manage that?
Yeah, rear grip a problem. He also got on the radio and said he was really, really tight in the center of turn 1. So both ends of the race car just completely disconnected for Denny Hamlin right now.
And there's only 35 seconds left of this first portion of practice, which is 20 minutes in duration. So Hamlin's back to pit road. Reddick still tops the speed charts over Ross Chastain, Kyle Larson, Shane Van Gisbergen, then Denny Hamlin on screen, Logano Blaney, LaJoy, Gregson, and Michael McDowell in the top 10. Here's Chase Briscoe. Coming your way, Dylan. He is indeed working down the back straightaway. Here's the entrance to the bus stop. Let's go through there smoothly. Now into the carousel, Kim.
And I talked to Chase Briscoe and his crew chief, Richard Boswell, just about how they're approaching this weekend after their DNF last weekend. They said last weekend, actually, they felt like it could have been worse than it was because of the troubles other teams had. And Chase said after the race, he kind of looked at the points and he said, minus 21, that's very doable. The team talked about how good Chase is on both this racetrack and next week at Bristol. They have to score, though, 35 points is the goal this weekend to feel good about heading to Bristol.
Everybody's trying to come up with like a target points. Remember, that's not exactly how it works. You can't be in the bottom 4, but they're all just looking at past history and what it's taken to advance out of this round. The concern is, yes, he has pace, but he's next to last of all the playoff drivers in earning and average points earned. So it's not just about pace. It's how you can finish. What can you execute on stages? All of those things, because it is, unless you win, it is about how many points you can gain. Chase Briscoe's best result here at the Glen, for what it's worth, is 9. So those remaining drivers on track in this first group and first 20 minutes of practice making their way back. And we'll go again for another 20 minutes before repeating the whole process again. So Steve, now that we've watched the first practice, right, this group will have another 20-minute practice after the B group has a 20-minute practice. A lot of talk about the amount of speed these tires would lose. In 14, 15 laps, they lost about 2.5 seconds. And
That's
typically, I would think as a driver, that's only going to get worse. As you get to lap 25, I think the tire fall off will get larger and larger. And why that matters, you can run around 30 laps on fuel. And the way this race breaks down, there's a bunch of different ways that we've seen drivers kind of consume it, backing it up from the finish, stopping before the end of the stages. But most of those have ignored the value of new tires because this is a track where you continue to run the same speed. So this new phenomenon, which is really what the drivers have been asking for, is going to have to really sharpen the pencils, or probably the computer programs, of the engineers to decide, how do you then break this race up knowing that new tires are such an advantage?
All right, let's give you a little comparison of last year to this with Chase Elliott. This year, bottom box. Last year, top box.
I mean, you see the difference. Wow, violent. Yeah, it's all of that force, all those forces were being generated and going directly to the driver. And essentially, there were crashes. The drivers were experiencing G-loading like they were in a crash every time through the inner loop.
We don't know what the comparative lap times were, but that's kind of by the by. That was through there. Here's Kim Kirk. Kim?
Yeah, and as we look at the Group A of this session, Ryan Blaney, that team decided to change tires towards the end of that session. The goal was to try and do a mock run. The last 6 races at Watkins Glen were won from a top 6 starting position, so that was something that was on their agenda. Unfortunately, after they changed those tires, Ryan missed the bus stop, so they kind of had to throw away that mock qualifying run. It was a little bit all for naught, but that's also on these agendas. We talked about the tire fall off, what they need to know over a long run. Can they still flip the stages? But for as important as qualifying is, they want to get some of those mock runs in, see what that fire off speed is here at Watkins Glen.
All right, so we'll go over the leaderboard then for those top 19 drivers from Group A, how they stacked up against one another as Group B is just beginning their practice session. Tyler Reddick was first overall. His fastest lap was a 72.018. Ross Chastain second overall. Kyle Larson third. Shane Van Gisbergen fourth. Denny Hamlin fifth. Joey Logano sixth. Ryan Blaney seventh. Corey LaJoie eighth. Noah Gragson ninth. Michael McDowell 10th rather. 11th for Chase Elliott, Chase Briscoe 12th, Juan Pablo Montoya 13th, Chris Buescher 14th, Brad Keselowski 15th, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 16th, 17th for Justin Haley, Bubba Wallace 18th, Kaz Grella 19th. Again, that was the Group A finishing order. Group B just beginning here for practice. You're listening live to Go Bowling at the Glen practice for the NASCAR Cup Series here at Watkins Glen International.
Back of that car very low. You could see the diffuser strakes grinding off as he crossed over that curbing.
Austin sits in that top 50% in the playoff standings. He's in 7th, so he's got a little bit of room to breathe, a little bit of comfort. He's done plenty of road racing in his life, especially in the early days, as he was bouncing around, trying lots of different categories. So turning left and right certainly is no surprise to Austin Cindric.
And he's done a great job on NASCAR road courses as well in his time in the NASCAR Xfinity Series over the years. He's got a tremendous road racing skill set, Philip, and that can stand to pay dividends for him here this weekend.
Absolutely. Needs a good run this weekend. A pretty good spot in the playoffs, but you can never have too much of a buffer as Cindric works through the bus stop winner in St. Louis earlier this year on the oval. Smoothly through this portion of the racetrack and hugging that curbing as he works into and out of the carousel, Cam.
And Dylan, you mentioned you can't have too much of a buffer. That's exactly what this team tried to instill in me. Crew chief Brian Russell saying the points are so important this weekend. Brian said it was actually one of the most stressful race weeks of the year on him, specifically because of the playoffs. He said, it was up there with Bristol in the spring in terms of stress levels, the new tire there. There's just so many contingencies they have to plan for in the race, so many new and different factors specific to the track, specific to the tire. And then you think about Bristol next week, anything can happen there. So they really want everything to go as correct as possible this weekend for the team here at Watkins Glen.
Coming your way, Baggy. Here he comes through 2, up the hill, a little bit wider exit through 2, but he just aims that left front on those rumble strips in 3. hooks him in turn 4, and then he gets that wide arc out of 4, and then begins to set sail up the back straightaway.
Car looks nice and stable down by you, Baggy, as he works past me here, not too out of shape, using a bunch of the curbing through all portions of this end of the racetrack. And again, just past me now, right on the rumble, stripping through the carousel, not drifting too far wide in the center, and able to get the car pointed and not using too much of the runoff at the exit of the carousel.
Defending race winner here at Watkins Glen is Hendrick Motorsports' William Byron. He led the majority of the laps last year. And imagine if he can back this win up. Continue Hendrick Motorsports' unbelievable run of 5 consecutive wins here at the Glen and consolidate his position in the playoffs. Steve, you know the magic inside the corporation. What makes the magic here at the Glen for Mr. H's team?
Well, what's surprising, as Jeff pointed out, this is a track that they were so good at with the old car. Chase Elliott specifically had dominant speed. So when you shift to the new car, all I can figure is it has to be their approach, like where they prioritize aerodynamics versus power versus balance, because, all of their cars have pace. They're very efficient with the strategy, but the pace for sure knows. Byron working into the bus stop now. Double duty for him this weekend. Also the Xfinity Series race later this afternoon behind the wheel of the 17HendrickCars.com Chevrolet. But here on the Cup side of things, looking good, sitting 4th fastest right now as he works through the sweeping right-hander, turn number 5.
Reboot going. I had to log out of OBS and log back in again, but we're good to go as of right now. Kyle Busch just spun in the midst of practice in turn 5. No contact with the wall or anything. Looked like he got a little wide coming out of the bus stop, caught a bit of the dirt on his corner entry into the corner, and after the wheel hop, he had spun around. So no contact there for Busch. He is digging, though. He's 2nd fastest of those in Group B. Austin Cindric fastest overall in this group. But I should say overall he is 7th, but he is fastest in the Group B portion of practice. 72.427 fastest lap for Cindric. Kyle Busch 2nd quickest of this group of cars. 3rd quickest would be Ty Gibbs, who's 17th overall. Then you got William Byron, AJ Allmendinger, the top 5 for Group B. Top 5 overall, still the same from Group A: Tyler Reddick, Ross Chastain, Kyle Larson, Shane Van Gisbergen, and Denny Hamlin.
National playoffs. Really thanks, Steve. He'll be pushing really hard. I think he's more than capable of making that. Yeah, still looking for his first Cup Series win, the only one of the 16 who has yet to win. Why not here? I agree with you, Jeff. It shows enough pace, enough consistency.
Working down the back straightaway and into the inner loop. This is AJ Allmendinger. Works out of the bus stop now, goes past me here in turn number 5. And AJ, of course, another one. Great road course racing. So many laps on all the different road courses throughout the world. Fun to watch, and he works his way down to turn 6.
I don't know about you, Steve. You have to watch that whole day. So amazing, especially on board with AJ. He makes it look much easier than it is. Always such in control of his car, even while creating lap time and finding pace. And this gives you a great view. I know it's so hard from the higher cameras to see the different pavements, right? But normal pavement, That is concrete painted rumble strips, the multicolor area. And as we come down into turn one, Jeff, when you exit one, you got wide enough you actually got to see the new ground spots of asphalt. Yeah, it's right here, downhill into one. Starts right there, really aggressively downhill. You gotta be perfect on your marks right here. Accelerate hard over those new strips. No problem for AJ. Daniel Suarez had a really strong run last weekend at Atlanta Motor Speedway. And having a strong practice so far. He's only 6 passes in this group, but if I look at lap time on older tires, Daniel has, in my opinion, the best car. He's sitting here running really good lap times. He and Cedric, with this amount of laps on tires, I think it's kind of a wash, but Suarez having a really good practice. He's been very smooth, pretty action so far. Session, Jeff. He is now coming in at turn 4. This is Skilling onto the back straightaway as he's trying to get even more speed out of that straightaway. And Christopher Bell right in front of him, the yellow number 20 car. Those cars 6th and 7th on the speed charts right now as they chase each other through the bus stop. William Byron just up the road in front of these two. Bell leading Suarez through the carousel out of turn 5. Two guys coming off strong runs last weekend. Christopher Bell, especially. Remember that penalty, Steve? They came back, went right back, fought his way forward, and to finish in the top 10, that was huge. Who knows where that might stand at the end of the day in the big picture of the playoffs? Well, what we have learned in these playoffs, in each round, remember, 3 races to eliminate some drivers, and we've seen drivers tie. Drivers eliminated by just 1 point as we see a little right front lock up by Harrison Burton, the driver of the 21th. So huge race for Harrison if you're trying to make the next round of the playoffs. He's last in average points earned on road courses of all the guys in the playoffs. Pace has been pretty good. 10 passes in this group, and I look at his long run pace. It's right where his teammate Cedric is, a couple tenths off of Truex, but reasonable pace. The 48 of Bowman, as this run went on, he started to lose a great deal of pace. He was right there with the 99 to 21 and the 48, the 99 gapped. The 21 and the 21 gap to 48, so this team wanted to come in and do a little bit of work. Bowman's 11th in this group on the speed chart. Here's someone we haven't seen yet today, and a guy who knows how to drive to victory lane. It's Mark Truex Jr. Wrong place, wrong time last weekend. And that side hit he got in that crash severely damaged the 19 and really put paid to any chance of a good result. Go busy in there, he's got the windshield wiper on. I'm in green out. I think he's a little busy right now. Maybe he can't get to the switch because he's got Christopher coming in past him a couple laps ago. That's a pretty spirited face practice. Right now across 4. Daniel completing the pass a couple of laps ago. With windshield wiper, Dylan, still ablaze on that car. He's moved the settings down. It looked like it slowed down there. I was wondering if maybe there was dirt on the windshield or something like that from where somebody went off in front of him. He was going to get cleaned off. It looks like he's got it stopped now, and indeed he does as he works through the carousel here. Mel's still right on his rear bumper. These two getting a good read on exactly what the other one's got at this end of the racetrack. Well, Bell is not happy with what he has because Suarez caught him and drove away from him. See right there, the back of Christopher Bell's car, very unhappy on corner entry. Gonna be a fascinating day tomorrow to see what these tires, how they will behave. If you're constantly running wide over those ripple strips, what's that effect gonna have? And you have to manage them. You only have 4 sets in your pits. These are the rumble strips right here that we keep talking about. Those newly ground areas off turn 1. We kind of drove over them in the pace car, and I thought it was manageable as far as the roughness. Audibly, though, it's crazy how loud they are. And then the real question mark is, do they wear the tires faster? Yeah. They're essentially the same thing if you're on the interstate. and you go a little further off the road than they want you to start to vibrate, make that noise. It's essentially the same type of cut into the asphalt. Weren't that calm this morning when I tested them out? You giving me a little credit, a little further than you want, like the Nazi.
Here's Zane Smith in the 71. He's working his way into turn number 5 right now. Josh Berry just in front of him. These two cars navigating their way through turn number 5, each of them smoothly through and off of turn 5. Pretty big disparity between Group A and Group B as far as the outright fastest time. More than 4/10, working its way to half a second. We'll see. That continues to trend that way as we go deeper into this practice session and heading to qualifying.
Josh Berry will practice hard. It's slowest in this group, but with the track time, he's picked his pace up a little bit. Still needs a little bit more. Keeping it out of those recessed rumble strips, both he and Zane doing that at the entrance of 2. Both of these drivers, again, looking to rumble strips. That's what you want to do. That's trying to keep all the speed in these cars you can possibly get. And you'll do that by just gliding right over those rumble strips.
Smith had a peek to the inside. It looks like Berry will let him have that position as they work into the bus stop. First cup start here at Watkins Glen for both of these drivers. Some experience in other disciplines, but first time racing on Sunday for both the 4 and the 71 drivers. They navigate the carousel once more.
From the carousel to the inner loop will bus stop. Todd Gilliland just ahead of John Hunter Nemechek. So they work their way through the carousel now. John Hunter was fortunate enough to come up here and test, but not in a Cup car. He was actually in an Xfinity car for Sam Hunt Racing. Another Toyota hand out the window from Todd Gilliland right here. So John Hunter got a little extra lap time, just trying to improve his road course experience. And you see a couple 2311 teammates, Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace, talk things over.
So we'll go over the Group B finishing results here for their first practice session. All 19 of them. Austin Cindric with a fast time of 1:12.427. Kyle Busch second. He only ran 4 laps. On that 5th lap, he ended up spinning, so then he ended up bringing it onto pit road as a result of that. Each of these teams only get 2 sets of tires for practice, and because there's another 20 minutes coming up for each of these 2 groups, because of the different tire this weekend, that's why NASCAR has allowed each of these teams to get an extra 20 minutes of practice. They don't want to use that second set at the end of this first session. They're going to wait until the beginning of session 2 and then run that set more than likely all the way through that 20 minutes, if I had to guess. But anyway, Busch second fastest right now in Group B. Ty Gibbs third, William Byron fourth, A.J. Allmendinger fifth, Daniel Suarez sixth, Christopher Bell seventh, Zane Smith eighth, Martin Truex Jr. 9th, Harrison Burton in 10th, Alex Bowman in 11th, Todd Gilliland 12th, John Nemechek 13th, Carson Hocevar 14th, Eric Jones 15th, Austin Dillon 16th, Ryan Preece 17th, 18th for Daniel Hemrick, Josh Berry is 19th. So that is the order in which the Group B drivers are as this Group B practice session concludes. Overall, we'll go through the full field order with the mix of Group A and Group B drivers. That is the lineup you currently see on the raw feed on screen. Tyler Reddick is first right now with a 72.018. We'll see what kind of lap time pickups we'll have for the second set of practice when all these teams put new tires back on. Ross Chastain is second quickest as of right now with a 72.096. Kyle Larson third fastest, Shane Van Gisbergen in fourth, and Denny Hamlin fifth. Joey Logano sixth. Austin Cindric, again, who was fastest in Group B, 7th overall. Ryan Blaney, 8th. Corey LaJoie, 9th. Noah Gragson rounds out the top 10. Michael McDowell in 11th. Kyle Busch in 12th. Chase Elliott, 13th. 14th for Chase Briscoe. Juan Pablo Montoya, 15th. Chris Buescher, 16th. Ty Gibbs, 17th. Brad Keselowski, 18th. William Byron, 19th. And A.J. Allmendinger is in 20th. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., 21st. Daniel Suarez, 22nd. Christopher Bell, 23rd. Zane Smith, 24th. Martin Truex Jr., 25th, Justin Haley, 26th, Bubba Wallace, 27th, Harrison Burton 28th, Kaz Gralla 29th, and Alex Bowman 30th. 31st for Todd Gillen. John Nemechek 32nd, Carson Hocevar 33rd, Eric Jones 34th, Austin Dillon 35th, Ryan Priest 36th, Daniel Hemrick 37th, Josh Berry 38th. 2 non-chartered entries at the track this weekend. The 54 Juan Pablo Montoya is at third, 23-11 entry this weekend. And the other non-chartered driver for this weekend's race would be AJ Allmendinger in the 13, which is an extra colleague entry, with Shane Van Gisbergen driving the 16 car for this weekend. Average speed on the lap time for Reddick as well was 122.469 miles per hour. All these Group B drivers pulling their way to pit road. And again, we will have an additional 20 minutes for Group A and Group B to go back out there, have another practice run at it, new set of tires. As they continue to learn how these new tires will navigate this 2.45 mile road course here at Watkins Glen International in upstate New York. Be sure to hit the like button on the stream if you haven't done so yet. Subscribe for more daily NASCAR content. We have live NASCAR commentary streams like this every NASCAR race weekend for Truck Xfinity Cup, as well as Cup practice and qualifying. And obviously this will prelude into qualifying, so you won't have to go anywhere. All that on the same stream as you are watching right now. Our Xfinity Series race coverage later today will begin at 3 p.m. Eastern, with our Cup Series coverage beginning tomorrow with the pre-race at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. So be sure to check those out as well throughout the rest of the weekend. Subscribe again, hit the like button. We have over 100 people watching, only 28 likes. Our goal is to get to 50, but be sure to hit that like button. We could be able to get more than that. We had over 100 last week for practice and qualifying, so we obliterated our goal there. Let's try to do that yet again. So halfway through practice, and then we'll have group qualifying after that. I think the coverage will conclude around 2 p.m. today for NBC Sports' coverage of this, at least. And obviously, we might go a couple minutes longer than that as we'll go through the starting lineup for tomorrow's race. And again, 3 p.m. Eastern will be our Xfinity race coverage. We'll take a quick break, continue this live commentary stream. I haven't been able to look at the chat much because I have the NBC Sports app on my phone covering the race, so usually I would use my phone to look at the chat. And so I'm not able to actually play this on my TV in front of me. So appreciate everybody tuning in. Some shout outs to those of you that are in the chat and watching. We got Wade Solinsky, we got Frank Powers, Max Loves NASCAR, Darren Dixon, T Van, thanks for tuning in. Let's see here. Bronny20 Forever, thanks for tuning in. Villanor, Willy Wonka, Alex Grant, Billy's Libraries and Arts, Sundax10, Cyrus, thanks for tuning in. What else we got here? Exalt Deagle 2, thanks for tuning in. Gerald Household, Patrick Chadley, JoJo. Title sponsor still Go Bowling, yes it is. Rima, thanks for tuning in. Kyle Larson has the best lap average. There you go. I'm not sure if that's overall or what lap category you mean, but Montoya looked pretty good on the long runs in the first session. Him, Cindric had pretty good long run speed for Group B. Trainskate 1024, also thanks for tuning in. Elijah Smith. And many others for watching. Appreciate everybody tuning in here. Late morning, now into the early afternoon for Cup Series coverage. Group A cars back on the racetrack once again as they will begin their second of 2 20-minute practice sessions.
Kings Line comes this weekend. Stops complete into the carousel. Like the rumble stripping on the right side of the racetrack. And just some clean air and a clean spot on the racetrack to get this 6-car dialed in. Talk about playoff drivers and nerves. I think Brad Kay has to be on that list of drivers feeling a little outside their comfort zone. This car at the road courses
It's been a little bit of a battle. I mean, he's done it here before, right? He's been second 3 times. 3 times in a row, though, 11, 12, and 13. And Gene Penske at that era of car, I think, had the fastest road course cars. It seems now that this RFK group, Buescher finds success. Brad K, though, has yet to find that consistency that Buescher has at the road courses. Maybe this weekend could be that weekend for Brad Keselowski. You mentioned he's finished third here. Make that second 3 times here at Watkins Glen, and a win was there a lot for this race team in their playing for championship hopes here in 2024. Here he is at a number 3 and on pursuit of Ross Chastain. He sits 13th in the standing. He's 1 point out. I got him to 12th position, so definitely needs a good weekend as he navigates the bus stop. Ross Chastain just in front of him. Keselowski dipping the right sides off and kicking some dirt up in this portion of the racetrack as he navigates the carousel once more. And look, with Brad's great results here and Chris Buescher's good feel on road courses this year and also here, maybe, just maybe, it can be a positive combination for the RFK Fords. Another 20 minutes for this group, so we're already down to 16 and a half to go to maximize. How does the car feel? What's the setup like? How am I going to get it into quality mode the best I can?
Quality mode.
Oh, the fast times on the left, Reddick, Chastain, Larson, SVG, those are all from the first session, the first 20 minutes for Group A. The track has considerably slowed down here since first time out.
Yeah. It's probably why Group E was slower than Group A also.
Nice job, these on road course racing. Ty, you didn't think about it, but this year we've seen him toward the front a lot on road course. The yellow, the name's underlined in yellow, the playoff drivers. Corey LaJoie uses plenty of room there. Here comes Tyler Reddick up to the S's. Very nice run for Tyler through turn 3. Uphill, now the right-hander turn 4 with Juan Pablo Montoya, his teammate, in lockstep with him. 2311 cars working down the back straightaway as they navigate this right, double left, right complex. Boy, Montoya, rather Wallace, just in front of Reddick, all sorts of sideways at the exit of the bus stop. All three 2311 cars, Wallace, Reddick, and Montoya, in lockstep formation as they work out a 5. Let's watch the gear shifting. What Tyler Reddick does. This heavy left-hander, downshift, just 1 gear. Let's stay in that same gear. A little downshift there. So now he's down 2 gears before he runs down that long back stretch. Upshift. Another upshift. Check out the brake marker to the left. Pick your spot. Downshift, downshift. Got 2 gears quickly. Upshift here. There'll be another upshift at some point. Let's see where he gets it. Right there. That's a difficult place to shift, Steve. You're carrying as much gear as you can up the hill, but you wonder if he wouldn't be better off shifting before he got there. But that's a high gear. That's the only place on the track you're going to see 5th gear is entrance of the bus stop. Here's Reddick once again, chasing Bubba Wallace, who was smoothly through the bus stop this time after nearly spinning last time through all those 2311 cars in single file formation as they chase each other down to 6. The 23 of Bubba Wallace, who is down in 17th place in this group. So pretty much at the opposite end of where one of his teammates this weekend is. Reddick in first, Wallace at 17th at the moment.
Bubba Wallace firing turn one. Turn one to turn two is still a downhill run as he makes the right into two and begins the uphill climb to turn three, which is where he is right there. It's on. Bubba in turn three right there and Chase the race car gathers it back up as he exits turn four.
And allows Reddick to cruise just a little bit as they work down the backstretch. Trent last year here probably took a big step in his road course performance as the regular season wound down, finished a career best 12th last year here at Watkins Glen. Not a bad road course racer. Admits still he has some things to learn, but he's taken a big step forward over the last year, trying to find that balance again here as he goes way wide at the exit of five.
Hole 3, 23-11 cars on track, all grouped with just over 12 minutes remaining in this second practice session for Group A.
Bubba is pushing really hard here. You can see how much racetrack he's using with his teammate. That's a great point, Jeff. It's one thing to make lap time, but how hard are you trying to get to that lap time? And it seems like Bubba is closer to 100% versus the car behind him. Kyle Larson using all that runoff off turn two.
Here's Larson up the hill. Right now, he'll bring that Chevrolet into position on the leaderboard. That is the cumulative time from the first session and where we are up until now. So, a fast afternoon for Kyle Larson as he heads to the loop.
Time winner here at the Glen, smoothly through the inner loop, up over the curb, and again over the curbing at the exit of this portion of the racetrack. Gets the car woed down and pointed the right direction as he goes around this long right-hander. Let's watch how much space he uses. Keeps it pretty reined in all the way to the exit of that pavement before he guides it back onto the racetrack.
And it's less than a week ago at Atlanta Motor Speedway, Jeff, where he had that very confronting crash, and it's still just such a great testament to this car that he stepped from it and was talking and explaining what happened straight away.
Yeah, and able to come out here and do this, right? I mean, obviously a massive impact. Gets into turn three, everything's turn one round there, everything seems okay. Car gets loose, he overcorrect. Just pounds the wall. Then Case Briscoe trying to disarray ends up getting into him, making another big impact right there. So now you come to a very physically demanding racetrack. And it's hot inside the race cars. It's physically demanding, a lot of shifting, a lot of braking. You wonder how sore he really is. He'll never really tell us. The athletes don't let you know.
And remember just how costly it was because Kyle started the playoffs as the #1 ranked driver, and Steve, just like that, he's 10th.
Well, that's why everyone that we talked to on the playoff media day before Atlanta was so nervous appearing. They all said the right things, but you could see there was a little bit of nerves, and it's because of what can happen in these rounds. I think Joey Logano a year ago, he was knocked out in this round. Now, he won, and he's advanced, but when someone like Logano gets knocked out, in which I thought was a much more straightforward round without Atlanta, without Watkins Glen, that is nerve-wracking. Race car drivers do not like to have things out of their control, and this round is pretty far step out of their control versus rounds in the past.
Car number 10 is in position 10. Maggie, Noah Gregson's coming your way. What a great run for that young man so far in this practice session lead. Bringing the old Bath and Beyond Ford Mustang. 3S's, turn two. Here's Noah dialing up the low lane just to get the twitch out of the car there. Oh, he's really fighting it over turn three. Trying to sort it out now as he heads to turn four.
Another driver with experience in the Xfinity Series here, but making his first Cup Series start this weekend is Noah Gregson. Couple downshifts to the right-hander on the entry to the bus stop. Left side's in the air a couple times, and then smoothly over that curving just in front of us here in turn number 5 at the entry to the carousel. Gregson's car looks good at this end of the racetrack, and smooth at the exit of the carousel as well.
8 minutes, 20 seconds left in this practice session for Group A. It's their final one before they go into qualifying mode. Reddick is still the quickest. Chastain, Larson, Van Gisbergen, and Denny Hamlin. It's promising.
Yeah, so the lap times aren't changing much on this set of tires versus the first set. More just trying to get a feel for the long run as the track now has gained rubber. The green racetrack at the beginning allowed for a lot more quicker lap times to be ran from Group A. And then when Group B went out for the first time, their lap times were significantly slower, where Cindric, who was the fastest in that group, was 7th overall. Top 6 were all Group A drivers at that time, still are. And there's been no noticeable change in the leaderboard in the top half of the field as well through this overall practice session. This is the second and final 20 minutes for Group A. Again, Group B will still have a 20-minute session left. And then at the top of the hour, we will head to qualifying, which will be group qualifying, but timed for that session. We'll worry about that when we get there. Obviously, the usual top 5 from each group will requalify for those top 10 positions in the final round. We'll highlight the playoff standings here for the first time today as we take a look at, of course, the standings heading into the second race of the playoffs. First time we've seen Watkins Glen in the playoffs of the NASCAR Cup Series, so it'll be interesting who's going to try to go for stage points, who isn't. I would imagine a lot of those playoff drivers are going to try to go for all the points they can get in the stages and at the end of the race. So you might see a mixed bag of cars. A lot of non-playoff drivers at the front of the field by the time the final stage begins. I could definitely see that happening. Obviously, a new tire, a new option tire this weekend as well, could lead into a very different hand as far as who may be good and who may not be, as we are seeing a bunch of fall off so far in practice. So Joey Logano locking his way into the round of 12 of the playoffs, virtue of a win last weekend. Winning the first race of the playoffs at Atlanta. It was the second win of the year overall for Joey Logano, so he ended up picking up 5 additional playoff points with that win as well, which will carry over for him into the next round, and then the round of 8 if he makes it there as well. Ryan Blaney scored the most points of any driver last weekend, despite not getting the win, finishing in 3rd place, finishing 1st and 2nd in both stages, did pick up another playoff point as well for himself if he does make it out of the round of 16. Ryan Blaney is 45 points above the cut line. Christopher Bell plus 40, plus 33 for Tyler Reddick and William Byron, plus 27 for Alex Bowman and Austin Cindric. Cindric also won a stage last weekend, split the most stage points with Blaney, 19 apiece for those two drivers. And 24 points above the cutoff line would be Chase Elliott, plus 22 for Daniel Suarez. Kyle Larson, who went in as the number 1 seed, got in a wreck in stage 1. No stage points, only 1 point for his place finish. That is why he's only plus 15, despite starting the playoffs at plus 35. So only losing 20 points, honestly, the cut line isn't bad, considering he only scored 1 point in the race last week. A couple of very strong racetracks for Larson. At Watkins Glen, he's won there before. At Bristol, he's won there before. Finishes well consistently at both of these two tracks. So I don't think he's in any danger of missing the playoffs, but again, plus 15 for him. Plus 2 points for Denny Hamlin and only plus 1 point for Ty Gibbs, the two JGR Toyotas heading into this weekend's race. 4 drivers below the cutoff line. Brad Keselowski minus 1 point to that of Gibbs. Harrison Burton minus 16. Martin Truex Jr. minus 19. And Chase Briscoe minus 21st. So we'll see where all those playoff drivers rank as of right now in practice as well. Wrong screen. There we go. So again, Tyler Reddick 1st overall. And then Kyle Larson would be 3rd. Denny Hamlin 5th. Joey Logano 6th. Austin Cindric 7th. Ryan Blaney 8th. Then you got to jump down to Chase Elliott in 13th. Chase Briscoe 14th. Ty Gibbs 17th. Brad Keselowski 18th. William Byron 19th. Next playoff driver would be 22nd. Daniel Suarez 23rd. Christopher Bell 27th. Martin Truex Jr. 28th. Harrison Burton. Alex Bowman 30th is the last of the 16 playoff drivers in practice. So again, that is overall lap times as of right now. Still that fastest lap of a 72.018 for Reddick. 122.469 mile per hour average was on his 2nd lap of the first 20-minute session for Group A. Currently, he has ran 29 laps as we're just a few minutes remaining in this Group A practice session.
Hasn't affected too many of the drivers so far as Justin heads to turn 6. We just heard the voices of Mike Bagley and Dylan Welsh. The Bagman is with us again, going radio style. He's over in the S's. Dylan is over towards the carousel, exiting the inner loop. And we're going to have every angle, every lap covered for you across the entire weekend as we enter these final 3 minutes. Group A practice. And the Trackhouse Chevy looks strong. The Trackhouse Chevys do look strong. More important perhaps for Suarez in the second group than this group because of the playoff implications. Chastain not in the playoffs. And that's what Ross can do. Not only drive for himself in the one car, but the better he is, the more help he is to his teammate when they go back in with the engineers later trying to dissect their setups. I don't know about you guys, but we seem to be seeing a lot of tail end, a lot of cars in one timer.
It's hard to really understand how many laps they have on their tires because the scorings are all combined. But for sure, that is what we've noticed. When Denny Hamlin spun out all by himself earlier, we noticed that as grip starts to come off of his tires, it's mostly on the back of the car. Denny Hamlin in the first practice drove down in turn one where he's headed right now, applied the brakes, shot it downshift, and around it went.
And this is what happened earlier to the driver of the 11. All by himself, downhill, down into turn one. Had to make a correction and keep that. He was well off the wall anyway, but this was the first of two spins, one for Denny Hamlin and one for Kyle Busch.
What's interesting about that, Steve, is that when he got down in the corner and he started to get loose, he turned the wheel to the left. It hung a left. That's interesting if you think he was racing someone else, right? And if you get down in there and started to lose it, the natural instinct is turned to the left. And that would have been some carnage in turn one.
Denny looks okay. It is hard, to your point, to kind of dissect all the laps. He looks like he just loses too much grip in the end. You know, like you get about 10 laps on the tires, the back of his car kind of just doesn't have the grip that he hopes it would.
I noticed that with his teammates that were in the second practice. Christopher Bell, Ty Gibbs, they had the same issue. I wasn't able to so much with Truex, but those two weren't good late in the runs either. But that's something that may be air pressure. You know, they make some air pressure changes before the race and get that.
I think the best car in old tires is this man right here. The 34 of Michael McDowell won at the Indy Road Course a year ago. Basically, flag to flag. There were no stages in that race. And he was thankful because he dominated and controlled. I think the next best car was Chase Elliott, but without kind of a chance to punch up the field, the 34 never gave him a chance. And today, you know, he may only be 10th on the fast lap, but remember, that was this morning in the first session. When I look at him now, Bagley, this 34 really good on older tires.
Well, he is solid. Matter of fact, he is one of the best on old tires right now. Taking care of those tires as he heads for the inner loop.
Second on the 10-lap averages right now is McDowell. So to Steve's point, definitely likes his car as it builds in the run here. He works out of the bus stop and into the carousel right now. Smoothly through this portion of the racetrack. This is turn number 5. He'll exit here, try and keep it to the right as much as he can, but plenty of room to go to the left if needed. And now he's headed to 6.
He laughed at Dylan. He said to the right, Dylan, and he drove right over those new rumble strips.
End of that session for Group A. So they've done their 2 lots of 20 minutes each, and there's another 20 minutes coming up for Group B before we transition into qualifying mode. And for Michael McDowell, wouldn't that be something tomorrow if he could? He's not in the playoffs, but he could get a Watkins Glen victory. Tyler Reddick, the quick man from Group A.
First on-screen commercial break for those of you watching on the USA Network and or the NBC Sports app for today's practice and qualifying. Again, Tyler Reddick, fastest of Group A, ended up running 32 laps total, and I believe he actually ran the most laps of any driver. Nobody else had hit 32 laps from Group B, so we'll see how many laps some of the Group A drivers will run. Cindric ran 15 of them in his first session. Suarez ran 15, Truex ran 15, and seems to be the most of everybody from the second group of cars. So I would imagine right around 30 laps is going to be about as many as these drivers will be able to run. But again, one more 20-minute session for Group B, and then we'll get into group qualifying immediately after. Phoenix, thanks for tuning in. Also, Lloyd Barnes, welcome to the stream. Cindric also led the most laps, so you got bonus points from that race, not playoff points. Well, that would be under older formats. This was our NASCAR 07 season. Yes, you would be correct. Cheryl Brigner, thanks for tuning in also. Covering the race. I am covering the race. As far as cameras go, so my whole ordeal with that is the reason why I haven't shown any of like cameras from NASCAR.com is because I do think it's kind of blending the lines of copyright. I'll air some of the audio from time to time, but I'm also doing my own commentary throughout the course of it, so I think that that's okay for that reason. I know there's, I know CeeLo, for instance, he does use it. Um, he doesn't do like commentary for the races necessarily either, so he'll have like the on-air coverage. I do like to make the streams different. I don't like overlap. I would assume that maybe that's why he is doing that also. Because I did start doing the live commentary streams, and then I think I stumbled across his channel last year. I think he started doing them more consistently last year. So I'm going to assume that maybe he started doing that to do it in a different light, which I'm all right with, honestly, because I feel like if we have kind of the same thing, it'd be like a copycat thing. So I do like to bring like different coverage for that reason. I think we work in a cohesive unit with one another. With these streams, we try to share viewers and stuff, so that's greatly appreciated. I think he's on vacation again this weekend, so I know a lot of you guys that usually watch his channel are probably here again this weekend as well. So, CeeLo, if you're not watching, which I would assume you're probably not, appreciate it, man, and hopefully you're having a good vacation. As far as this goes, though, here today, I did put a poll up. 50 votes have been casted so far for who you think will qualify on the poll. 30% taking Tyler Reddick, 28% taking SVG. Other taking 24%, which is somebody other than Reddick, Van Gisbergen, or Larson. And then Kyle Larson at 18% of the vote. So it is a very tight poll as of right now. Toyota has not been themselves the past few weeks. I will say Toyota at the road courses, primarily not very good. Well, I will say this year they've been better than Ford. Ford has been the manufacturer of the road courses to be just terrible, really. So it's kind of surprising that we do see a handful of them in the top 10. 4 Fords in the top 10. All 3 Penske Fords in the top 10. Remember, there were no Fords that finished in the top 10 at COTA in the first road course race this year. And if you go back to qualifying on the Chicago street race that we had a couple months ago, there were no Fords that qualified in the top 10. So definitely showing more speed here at Watkins Glen than what we have seen on some of the other road courses. And I think a lot of that in the first half of the year, really Ford's struggling on every kind of racetrack, road courses included. And now that we're getting deeper into the season, they've definitely picked it up. They've won quite a few races now. Logano's got 2 wins. Blaney's got 2 wins. Keselowski's got a win. Logano also won the All-Star race, so that included. Cindric has a win. So they've definitely been a lot faster since the summer months have began. So we will take another break here, continue our commentary coverage of practice and qualifying for the Go Bowling at the Glen for tomorrow's Cup Series race. Got about 18 minutes of practice remaining as of right now.
Overdrive in the corner and keep yourself side by side or restart with another guy, and you get that flag on the tires, and you're done. Like it takes a half a lap to get it clean back on. Running aboard the Reese's Toyota Camry with Martin Truex Jr. Has won here before, needs to win again tomorrow in his final full-time season in Cup competition to stay alive in these playoffs. 19 points back is Truex, sitting 15th in the standings right now. She's right there. Could use a good run and most definitely a win this weekend. He's out of the bus stop through the right-hander known as the carousel and headed towards turn 6. Not a ton of points gained so far this year on road courses. This playoff started as a mixed-up field, and a lot of people predicted that a big name would not make it out of round 1, and Martin Truex Jr. with that poor finish in Atlanta, he's got work to do to get out of round 1.
Austin Cindric, quickest so far in Group B. Baggy, he's coming your way.
And he has been rock solid so far in all of the practice laps that he's run. Here he comes through turn 3. And he's going to let her eat now, working through turn 4. That car's got a lot of pace, and it's very solid at the short range front.
Cindric's in the top 10 so far sessions, both 5, 10, and 15 lap averages. So car pretty stable and solid throughout the early part of a run, but as we've talked about, the run's going to be a little bit longer, maybe 25, 30 laps potentially. But definitely like to have a car that's stable over the course of the early portion of the run, and that's what Cindric has now.
And Dylan, we talk about guys at the top of the board. Tyler Reddick, top of the board in Group A. And also, as we look at consecutive 5 and 10 lap. So 2 sessions behind you. Did you learn everything you need for tomorrow?
Well, we're definitely having some takeaways from this. It's just refreshing to be able to come here and have the ball up like we're seeing. Just having to think of things here that you just never really had for drivers in my past here. It's really cool to see that. But yeah, our Beast Unleashed Tony Camry's got a lot of good speed. He's proud of everyone at 2311 for bringing a solid Camry, and looking forward to taking in this Group B practice on the other end of pit road and seeing what we need to have for qualifying.
We also have Juan Pablo Montoya in the 2311 camp. I saw you guys talking after the first session. What's it been like working with him in the conversation exchange?
Yeah, the amount of experience he has behind the wheel of a race car, of any kind of race car, is it just well surpass anything I have. And it's been really cool to share some time with him and son, get to know him, and he's certainly taking this all in, trying to figure out what we need. Because if he would have came last year, man, it's straightforward Watkins Glen. I kind of know what to expect, but this time really changed it up, and we're all kind of searching around trying to find what we need.
And finally, fellas, the drivers can actually speak with some experience about this tyre now, because it was the number one question they were all asked. How do you think the tyre's going to perform? They didn't really know, except for the drivers who tested. Now they can speak from a standpoint of experience.
Yeah, we've answered a few questions on lap time, and they can answer some questions on actual fall-off. But I still have some questions in the race, because what opportunity is this going to present? Will you be able to take tires when somebody else doesn't? Will you be able to, Jeff, if you're AJ Allmendinger, kind of set behind somebody and kind of ride and force that guy to burn his tires up, right? These drivers aren't just out here running a 100-meter dash, right? They're not swatting flies every lap. They are so good at their skill set that they can kind of feel if the tire's going away. Maybe, Jeff, it's one of those things we talk a lot about at the ovals. I just push you into you burning your car up and then trying to get by me. Saving tire. A driver can do that, but you know what saves the tire best? Is a great car setup. Because that's really the combination of those two things, Steve. Don't look at me like that. The cards. Make it back down. I hate to agree with him, but I agree. There you go. They were the key words. Crack hated saying it. It's killing to say it. Awful.
Practice coverage continues on the USA Network and the NBC Sports app. It began on the NBC Sports app right when we went live at about 11:30 a.m. this morning. And then at 12:30 p.m., it had moved over to where we are at right now on the USA Network. Austin Cindric still the fastest overall in Group B. That was on his third lap of his first 20-minute session. This is the second and final 20-minute session for the Group B drivers as of right now. Again, your fast 10 for practice. Tyler Reddick first, Ross Chastain second, Kyle Larson third, Shane Van Gisbergen fourth, Denny Hamlin fifth, Joey Logano sixth, Austin Cindric seventh, Ryan Blaney eighth, Corey LaJoie ninth, and Noah Gragson in 10th. So that is the top 10 as of right now on the leaderboard. Now, I will say that, again, we haven't seen much movement on the leaderboard itself from the first group of practice for first 20 minutes, I should say, of practice for Group A and Group B to what we've seen in the second 20-minute session with the track gaining rubber. But also the sun coming out as we get further into the afternoon. Track temps are changing. Track's going to lose a little bit of grip that way as well. Full Xfinity Series race still to come later on at 3 p.m. Eastern. And tomorrow's Cup Series coverage will be going live at 2:30 p.m. Eastern with our pre-race prior to the drop of the green flag. Both of those races on the USA Network this weekend. It'll be the final Xfinity Series race on the USA Network before they move to the CW beginning next week and the regular season finale on Friday night at Bristol. Got triple header of coverage next weekend, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday for Truck, Xfinity, and Cup action from Bristol Motor Speedway next week. So quick turnaround for what we have here on a Saturday, Sunday action this weekend at Watkins Glen. And of course, that'll be the elimination race of the round of 16 of the playoffs for the Cup side as well. Predictions: Truex is going to miss the round of 12. Yeah, I mean, he hasn't been great on the road courses this season. Him and Hamlin even more so, struggling on the road courses with this next gen car. I think he's probably Hamlin's probably in a better spot than Truex just because he does have more points. Hamlin's +2 versus Truex -19. That's going to be interesting. I would imagine a lot of these playoff drivers are going to secure stage points. Those that are above the cut line by even a comfortable margin right now, Blaney, Cindric, they're probably still going to go for stage points if they have the opportunity to. You don't want to go into Bristol, even remotely close. If you could have a +40 point advantage into Bristol versus a +20 point advantage by not sacrificing stage points throughout the course of the race, that'll be huge for him. Haven't seen any on-track incidences that have warranted a caution so far through all of these 20-minute practice sessions. We have seen a few spins. Hamlin spun in turn 1 earlier. Kyle Busch in turn 5. I think those are the only spins that have been recorded, but no damage on either car. So that is good there. They are back from their full screen commercial break. About 9.5 minutes remain of practice.
Do that and change the way the racetrack treats you haven't seen here in the past. With this ran well here last year or the year before, it may not mean anything. It means you know how to get around this racetrack. But you and your team are going to have to stay ahead of the track changes. You're going to have to understand short run versus long run. It is a different ballgame, Kim.
Yeah, William Byron, we know he's playing double duty this weekend, had that extra practice on the Xfinity side, although told me it likely didn't help that much because the cars are so different, but was helpful to learn some of those track changes. Right now, though, Williams saying he's not getting enough out of his front tire, just no grip there.
So, fellas, let me ask you this. We're going to have stage breaks tomorrow, but we're also going to have cautions more. It's almost a certainty. Will NASCAR get out there with the track blowers and get rid of those marbles? We'll see a conversation with the drivers between now and then, and if needed, they'll do it. But only if it's they're not going to slow the race up. They're going to extend it. Correct. If it's a longer caution, if it's a long caution, and they can get it done, I think they will. If they can, the other equipment may need to be used to clean the accident up. And in that case, they're not going to extend it to do it. One thing that'll clean at least turn 1 and 2 is double file restarts. There you go. Really, that's what we see at the ovals, right? The preferred lane becomes really rubbered in. It gets dirty just above it, but in the race, when you're forced to ride too wide, you clean up some of the track. Let's go for a ride. Have a listen and enjoy this ride for a lap around Watkins Glen with Martin Truex Jr. Here we go. There you have it. Imagine doing that 90 times and racing 37 other competitors and trying to keep yourself in the playoffs. It's one of the quicker cars of this session, but spun earlier. Mike Bagley, it's Kyle Busch coming your way. Kyle Busch spun earlier on in practice, and his teammate Austin Dillon in the 3 coming along as well. That's turn 2, the bottom of the S's. And they transition to the top of turn 3. Both cars very solid. Now they're trying to get all the speed welded up in those cars as possible for a good run into the inner loop in front of Dillon.
Kyle able to get some separation there through the S's over teammate Austin Dillon. This was the point of contention earlier for Kyle right here over this last set of curbing. Got over it a little bit too much. Spun the car right here at the base of our tower in the middle of the carousel. Didn't hit anything, but certainly learned just how much he can be a charge through that portion of the racetrack over there in the bus stop.
This is what happened a little earlier to Kyle Busch. It was pretty dramatic. Check this out. Popped. Step sideways. That's how it ended.
All right, so just a few minutes remain in practice. Going to have over an hour and 20 minutes worth here total between both groups. Another full screen commercial break for those of you watching practice on the USA Network. I will say on the NBC Sports app, it's kind of nice so that they go commercial free, or at least have some sort of cameras operating during the course of a commercial. So if you're looking for an alternative to watch the race or watch any sort of NASCAR action caution free as it's going on, you can go to the NBC Sports app. Download it on the iPhone or your Android. What set of tires do they use for qualifying? New set. All are option tires this weekend. So there isn't an alternative tire, I should say. We're not using prime, not using prime and options this weekend. It's just the option tires that are being used here at Watkins Glen this weekend. So just a fresh set. Not all of us can pay for subscriptions. It's free. The NBC Sports app is free. Free app. Doesn't cost $1, a dime, a penny, a cent. Free of charge. Alrighty. Yeah, there isn't really a lot to add on to here other than the fact, again, we haven't seen any incidences in any of these 20-minute practice sessions that have warranted a caution. So track is remaining clean in the sense that there hasn't been any incidences. Leaderboard stayed mostly the same from the first session to the second session. This extra session is basically just for the teams to try to gather more info with this new tire that they're using on a road course for the first time here at Watkins Glen. Again, that is very similar to the option tire that we saw at Richmond as well as North Wilkesboro earlier this year. Definitely degrades a little bit more. Not all of us have a phone or a tablet. Well, most people do. I would imagine most people watching the stream probably have some sort of an electronic device, considering the fact that they're watching this stream. So, computer or something. Like, I don't know how else you'd be watching me without that, considering that it doesn't take cable to watch YouTube. Santiago Kid, thanks for tuning in also. Saturday afternoon. TV went out about 4 weeks ago. Having to watch on YouTube. Well, appreciate you tuning in. And just over 200 concurrent viewers watching, only 70 likes, so be sure to hit that like button. Try to run that up above 100. As we are down to just 2 minutes remaining now in practice. Cindric still the fastest in this group. 72.427. Honestly, it's still amazing on the short run how competitive cars are. I mean, we look at the lap times on a 2.45 mile 7-turn road course. The top 26 are separated by less than 1 second. Top 27, actually. Top 27 cars separated by a little bit less than 1 second. So there isn't a lot of room for error there, but the hope is that obviously we know these cars are so equal that it makes passing very tough on these short tracks and road courses. With the amount of tire fall off we're seeing, there should be more of an increment in lap times over the course of a longer run, which could lead to more passing opportunities. So that was the hope in bringing this tire at Watkins Glen this weekend, and the reason why we are seeing it, even though it is a playoff race to test it. A lot of these drivers seem to be okay with it in the sense that they got what they wanted, which is a tire that degrades over the course of a long run. Gibbs looking a little loose off of turn 5 with the front bumper cam in front of him. Cars finishing up their lap that they are currently working. And then they will head to pit road, and that will end practice as the time has expired for the final time for at least, again, this practice session. Qualifying will be times as well. I believe it'll be 15 minutes to try to put up a fast lap in round 1. If you make it to the final round, that will be 10 minutes to try to put together your fastest lap possible. And you can run as many laps as you want in that allotted time. May see drivers run just 1 lap if they feel it's quick enough to get into the top 5 and advance to the next round. And maybe you'll see some drivers run 5, 6, 7 plus laps to try to break into the top 10. AJ Allmendinger went for a spin right as time expired. Looked like it was around the S's of the racetrack. Doesn't appear that his car's got much damage. Showing a replay. It just went wide. Didn't spin out, but he definitely went off course out into the grass in the middle of the S's. He was running side by side going into that corner with Ty Gibbs, and that's definitely the most treacherous area of the racetrack to run side by side. And we'll be seeing quite a bit of that during the races, of course, as it's one of the first few turns on the 7-turn road course following a restart. Joseph Couch, thanks for tuning in. Anyone around Kentucky? Got us about to hang and watch the race. Well, there you go. Anybody wants to go to his house and watch some NASCAR? So we have the list of drivers who will be participating in Group A's practice. For those of you that were unaware of which cars were in which group, the 19 cars in Group A will be Juan Pablo Montoya, Kaz Grala, Shane Van Gisbergen, Noah Gregson, Chris Buescher, Michael McDowell, Bubba Wallace, Corey LaJoie, Justin Haley, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Ross Chastain, Chase Briscoe, Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski, Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick, Ryan Blaney, and Joey Logano. Those are the 19 drivers in Group A for qualifying. About to begin this time's session. I believe they're working themselves into another commercial break on the USA Network before we begin qualifying. Again, top 5 cars advance from each group into the final round, which is the same as it has been all season, as well as last year during group qualifying. Got some sweeper trucks, some jet dryers out there on the racetrack blowing some of the dirt, the dust, the sod off the racetrack from the marbles basically that have been picked up from cars running over the curb and just inside the curbs. As long as you get 2 tires up on them, it is a legal corner by way of NASCAR rules. If you do miss with all 4 tires, you have to come to a complete stop before beginning forward momentum to serve your timed penalty. Lynn Crosby, thanks for tuning in. Such a long process. Well, it is. I will say, I mean, they've had timed and/or group qualifying on road courses for a while now. It actually began on road courses before they started doing it on ovals, and then it led into ovals. Like, my recollection of them doing this on road courses, even before like the knockout, like just to have time lapse, it was like early 2010s, I think. Late car of tomorrow era. Started seeing some time sessions just because qualifying would take so long before that on road courses, letting every single driver go through run 1 to 2 laps when you have, well over a minute lap time per, versus, if you were to go to like a short track, qualifying would basically wrap up in like a half hour, 40 minutes at the most, even with commercials, but it would take a couple hours for qualifying here. So at least with this time qualifying, it does speed things up quite a bit. I mean, I like the idea of it for road courses. That and the field could get pretty spaced apart. You shouldn't have to worry about anybody in dirty air. You could back off and run a clean lap well behind somebody else. On the ovals, it's a little bit different of a circumstance, but to speed things up here, I'm okay with it on road courses personally. The knockout style, on the other hand, I don't like that if you run the fastest lap time and set a track record in round 1 and don't qualify on the pole with the track record in round 2. Like you set a track record in round 1 and you're on the pole, and then you go into round 2 and you qualify like 8th or something, but you're still considered with the track record because you set the fastest lap. And I don't know. Yeah, that seems a little weird to me, but as far as like timed session, I don't mind it for road courses. Like I said, speeds things up. If we just had like one long continuous 30-minute session to qualify, that'd be probably more optimal. Tim Fowler, thanks for tuning in also. Yeah, so 15 minutes for each group. That's what I thought. Top 5 from each. I thought it was 15 minutes. The final round, I believe, is only 10. Obviously, there's less cars, only 10 of them. And it looks like we've got cars on track, so qualifying just beginning finally for Group A. Again, 15 minutes.
You want to do 2 laps in each section. But if you go run now with 14 minutes left and you don't get the lap you want, you could save come back out for another run. If pause that we saw timing, and the drivers really have to work at it. Were you surprised that we only saw 2 spins? I'm not. And here's why. Before last year, we ran a lot of these road courses without stage breaks. And like I said, Indianapolis basically went start to finish. These drivers have become so good at road course racing that I think they can consistently just run lap after lap after lap. What I do think those spins prove to us, though, is just how much grip these tires lose. So 15 minutes for Group A.
to determine who the top 5 will be. Then we'll move over to Group B and do the same again before we funnel it all down to the top 10.
I think one thing is qualifying. We saw all of the debris on the racetrack from the tires. If you get offline by a few feet, you're in big trouble. So drivers are going to be trying to push everything they can. But if you make a misstep and you miss it by a little bit, it could be a huge penalty if you get that stuff stuck on your tires. Lose all the grip.
The track was blown up in the top section where Chase Elliott's coming now in the inner loop, the bus stop. It got a good cleanup, but there's still plenty of marbles on lines in other corners, as you just saw coming through the S's. This is where it got cleaned here, just because of the amount of dirt and debris and rocks that were through that section there. One exit.
The one thing I never liked when they blew the racetrack off is that, yes, they blow all of the great big chunks off, but they also blow the dust back onto it. So it wasn't always a net positive.
1:12.6. Chase Elliott going to be tested right away by his Hendrick teammate Larson, which looks slower. Blaney dramatically slower. And when you see the times populate on the graphics where they're coming down that stretch towards turn 6, remember it's the alternate finish line, so that if you do want to finish your lap, you can, or you can continue.
Chastain currently P1, over 3/10 faster than Chase Elliott, and he had good pace in practice. He and his teammate both had good pace.
Oh, man. That was very Kyle Busch-esque.
So to your point, Steve, with the tires kind of hold on to speed a little bit on the first 2 or 3 runs, if you miss it, you can come down here, get your tires cleaned off, get them cooled off, and go make another run.
Good work, Michael McDowell. He jumps to P3. So it's a 1:12.3 from Ross Chastain. Then Noah Gragson. Good lap. Michael McDowell, Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, who just had that anxious moment but was able to get away with it. Here's Joey Logano.
His teammate Blaney is not fast enough to be in the top 5 so far. Logano just starting his lap.
Keep your eye on that bottom graphic. Logano in the green at the moment. And the comparison to Kyle Larson in 5th. This is the guy who sits in the most elevated position in the playoffs. So there's not as much pressure on him as there is the other 15 drivers. Now Reddick in the green as well. Challenges are coming for that top 5 spot. Hammond looking good as well.
Really good lap by Logano here.
This is the stretch exiting the carousel to the alternate lap finish line, as opposed to the traditional start finish. Here it comes now. You'll see Joey's lap populate. How good is it? To Jeff's point, really good. He jumps to 2nd provisionally. 9:50 left on the clock. It's Elliott right now in 5th. Solid 4 or 5 cars left to run.
Reddick was not able to bump into the top 5.
Which is shocking. I had him as one of the best cars in race trim, but obviously it's not quite translating over to qualifying. Denny Hamlin goes 7th. So Reddick 6th, Hamlin 7th. Larson's been pushed back as Michael McDowell leapfrogs his way in there. Chastain, Logano, Gragson, McDowell, Elliott. That's the 5 at the moment. This is AJ Allmendinger. SVG. This is SVG.
Yeah.
13 this weekend is Allmendinger. Yeah, he went ahead and changed numbers. He's going to run the 16 in the Xfinity just to make it even more complicated. But here's SVG that has speed. So close. Just start this lap right here. And see, he had an issue. He ran like a minute 18 first lap, so I don't know if he had a problem or why he had to run a second.
It's interesting that he stayed on track. Right? The option would have been to come off the racetrack, get everything cooled down, go make another run, but opted to keep rolling here.
Oh, he was using it all there, and he's a tenth and a half to the good. Up through the S's. Now 2/10. Shane Van Gisbergen getting faster and faster on this lap. The payoff spot right here, though, the bus stop.
I think these high-speed sections are where he excels. C8 went in there a little bit behind, came out further ahead.
This surely will eliminate Chase Elliott from the top 5. As the alternate start finishes right there. To jump up to second, actually make it one better. Shane Van Gisbergen goes to the top. 7.5 left on the clock. How close he got here. Yeah.
Wow.
That racetrack is rough. I'll just say bounce.
Rough and dirty, and
Surprised he still kept lap time with doing that.
in addition to his unreal supercars career, he also enjoys rallying, so that didn't phase him one.
Well, and also nothing to lose, right? I mean, that is one of the things that, in my opinion, SVG has a major advantage over guys in racing for points. Is that if things don't work out, it's okay. When he goes to the race, goes home. But when he goes cup racing, that's not the case Xfinity racing. But when he goes cup racing this year, it's kind of, let's throw it out there and see what happens next year. When he goes full-time cup racing, he'll have a little more pressure on him as far as making sure he's able to complete the races.
Here's Ricky Stenhouse on screen. What have we got left on the clock? 6:20 left.
Stenhouse and Bubba Wallace are the two drivers that have not gotten on track yet. Need a lap time down. Here goes Stenhouse. Rated this run, Steve, it puts you in a situation where you have to make this lap count. If not, make another run, because it's probably not enough time to come down pit road and make any changes that are going to help you.
Also wide of that turn 1 ripple strip. And just under 2/10 off that 5th spot occupied by Michael McDowell at the moment. With 5.5 to go on the clock, guys, pretty interesting that the top 5 are all, except for Joey Logano. He doesn't have to worry, but the other 4 aren't worried about the playoffs either. Joey's got that comfort being on top. But for Van Gisbergen, Chastain, Gregson, and McDowell, they're out for the best race result.
And yeah, all the playoff drivers that are looking for points or a win to advance are all on the outside.
This lap's in the red for Ricky Stenhouse, but he'll complete that run and jumps to 9th.
But, better than a lot of really good road racers. Larson, Busher, Blaney, Briscoe, Keselowski, LaJoy. Better pace than them.
And all those drivers that are outside the top 5 right now, I'm sure are going to make another run as we get closer to time expiring in this qualifying session. As of right now, Shane Van Gisbergen is first, Ross Chastain second, Joey Logano third, Noah Gragson in fourth, Michael McDowell fifth, Chase Elliott sixth, Tyler Reddick seventh, Denny Hamlin eighth, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 9th, Kyle Larson is 10th. Chris Buescher 11th, Ryan Blaney 12th, Chase Briscoe 13th, Brad Keselowski 14th, Corey LaJoy 15th, Justin Haley 16th, Juan Pablo Montoya in 17th, Kaz Grala 18th, and Bubba Wallace has not made a lap yet. So Wallace is the only driver in this group of cars that has not made a lap in qualifying. And the only driver to make more than one lap is Shane Van Gisbergen, as he has made 2 laps, and of course he's at the top of the board. 72.227 for SVG. Fastest lap we saw in qualifying was a 72, or in practice rather, was a 72.018 from Reddick. And Reddick is currently 7th right now in qualifying with a 72.626 as his fast lap. Brad Keselowski back out on the racetrack. It looks like Joey Logano is going to be returning to the racetrack, so some of the Fords coming back out there to make one last run to try to get up into the top 5. Ryan Blaney Some of those in the top 5 already also coming back out just to try to protect themselves in the top 5 in case they were to get bumped. Try to put another fast lap together to get in. And some of the faster laps that we saw in practice earlier today were the second, third laps of a run. So I think you can still put together, even with the tire fall off, a good lap on lap 2 or 3 on these tires. But anything more than that, not entirely sure. I'd be shocked if anything more than that you'd be able to put together a faster lap than what you would have already ran for qualifying purposes. Keselowski will join Buescher that are out on the track, tracking and trying to catch Michael McDowell, who's on the bubble spot 5th right now. McDowell's lap time a 72.602. 2.5 minutes to go. Blaney is tracking in the green on McDowell. Initially, looked like he lost some time in turn 1. And now he's a couple tenths of a second back in the red again. Corey LaJoie finding some speed through the bus stop in turn 5. I would think LaJoie's going to be able to pick up in the positioning order from 15th, but I don't think he's going to get into the top 5. Yeah, he jumps from 15th to 8th. And Chris Buescher jumped from 12th to 10th. So positions are being gained in qualifying for these drivers outside the top 5 right now, but not necessarily fast enough to get into the fast 5 and have a chance to requalify for the pole in the second and final round of qualifying. Larson on track. Same for McDowell. McDowell going to put an extra lap on these tires right now. Remember, these are the same tires that have to be used in round 2 of qualifying as well. So the least amount of laps you can get away with running here in this round and make it into the top 5, you're going to be better off by the time the second and final round starts. Logano and Chastain are the only drivers that have only ran 1 lap so far that are in the top 5. And Stenhouse waited to run his 1 lap, and he is currently 12th. Reddick trying to pick up after being fastest overall in practice. He's going to have to gain a 10th through turn 5 in the bus stop here to work himself back to the adjusted timing and scoring line, which is located between turns 5 and 6. About halfway down that long straightaway between 5 and 6 is the timing and scoring line for practice and qualifying today. Obviously, for the race, we'll have the traditional start-finish line for regular action. And the reason for the alternate start-finish line is as soon as you complete your lap, you can come immediately to pit road instead of having to go all the way around the racetrack at a slower pace compared to other cars that are still trying to put together a qualifying lap in a timed session. So taking safety measures there. Larson picked up quite a bit through the bus stop, but lost that ground back in turn 5. And he is not going to break into the fast 5 on this lap either. We'll see if he runs another. Larson actually didn't even pick up. He's still in 9th. And Larson's bringing it into the pits. So Kyle Larson will not have a chance to go for the pole. And I don't think anybody that was outside the top 5 broke into the top 5 at the end of the session there. Chase Briscoe is the only driver that still has to finish his lap up, but he's in the red right now by a couple tenths of a second as he gets into turn 5. Once you start your lap before the clock expires, you can finish it. But if you hit the time and scoring line after the clock has hit zeros, then that lap will not count. So Shane Van Gisbergen, top of the leaderboard through round 1 Group A qualifying with a 72.227. He ran 2 laps. Ross Chastain ran just 1 lap. Ends up in 2nd. Everybody else 2 laps for Logano. Finished 3rd. Gregson and McDowell both in the fast 5 and 4th and 5th as well. They ran 3 laps apiece. So 6th through 19th. Chase Briscoe, Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick, Corey LaJoie, Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, Chris Buescher, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Brad Keselowski, Ryan Blaney, and Bubba Wallace, Pablo Montoya, Justin Haley, and Kaz Grala. And your 19 drivers who will participate in Group B qualifying will be AJ Allmendinger, John Hunter Nemechek, Josh Berry, Eric Jones, Zane Smith, Ryan Priest, Ty Gillen, Austin Dillon, Daniel Hemrick, Carson Hocevar, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., Harrison Burton, Ty Gibbs, and Austin Cindric, William Byron, Alex Bowman, Daniel Suarez, and Christopher Bell. So those are the 19 drivers for Group B. Again, another 15-minute timed session. And then when we get to the final round, that will end up being just 10 minutes for those 10 drivers to try to go for the pole and set the starting lineup for those top 10. Sec, thanks for tuning in. One of the Hendrick boys will win the pole. Well, it's going to be tough. Because I think Elliott and Larson missed. Elliott was one spot out of the top 5. Larson was 9th in Group A. So as we get into Group B now, the only Hendrick cars left are Alex Bowman and William Byron. Yeah, SVG's got a great shot to go for the pole. I'll keep that pole open. Tyler Reddick, so the voting now is just between SVG and other of those in the poll. Larson and Reddick both miss out in the top 5. Reddick 7th, Larson 9th for round 1. And that's despite the fact that Reddick was 1st overall in practice and Larson was 3rd. So a little bit of a drop-off from their greener racetrack beginning in practice to where we are at with the track conditions for qualifying. 138 votes have been casted in that poll so far as well. 31% of those 139 votes now have SVG qualifying on the poll, other at 26%. Those are the top 2. So if you haven't voted yet, be sure to vote. I will close that poll as soon as we get through Group B's first round of qualifying, which is set to begin any second. Be interesting to see if AJ can get into the top 10 and qualifying top 5 in this group as well, considering that his teammate SVG was 1st in his round.
Playoffs at 3 p.m. Eastern, where it is all to play for. And somebody who's given himself a very good chance of a promising day tomorrow is Ross Chastain, who's standing by with Kim.
Yeah, Lee, he had a great qualifying effort in that first session. As we look at the final round, how much pace is left out there for you to find?
Well, enough, Kim. I think for a Busch Light Chevy, that's just great execution.
Oh, and Chastain's shaved. He looks
to get warmed up today,
weird.
Protect your mount Chevy with DGM and the Xfinity car, it helps. I love being in double duty and driving both cars and feeling the differences. And we were able to only make 1 lap there, which was really good. We learned a lot throughout practice, having 2 sessions. Between Xfinity practices, I feel like I've been out here on pit road all day, which is awesome. But yeah, I think that there's more. I've studied SVG and everything that he's done. So it's nice to be within a half a second of him, let alone being second to him is really nice. And he's helped me a lot. So thanks to him and Trackhouse, it's a good start. We can keep piecing it together though for another round, I think.
I know you wish you were in the playoffs, but you had the opportunity to play spoiler, and you're looking great right now. Does your position offer you more freedom to be aggressive when maybe other teams can't?
Not for me. I can't drive the car any harder than I would have if I was in the playoffs or because we're out. So I think that for Trackhouse and GM and my one group, they can call a strategy of when we pit or whatever. After they do all that, they can make those decisions. They basically tell me about 5-10 seconds before I would hit pit road to pit. I never know what's happening. So that's the way we found to be best. Let me drive. I'll give them little bits of feedback. But as far as how we would play out the race or anything, I don't know. I don't get into that. I drive the car.
All right, he drives the car. He did that in round 1 of qualifying. We'll see what he has in the final session.
He made that top 5 cutoff from Group A. Group B is about to roll, and what a trio of tracks we have for this first round of the playoffs. Atlanta last weekend, Joey Logano, the victor, played it right at the right time. Here we are at the Glen, one of the most classic road courses on the planet, and the half-mile bull ring that is Bristol Motor Speedway next weekend. So, you got to bring your best on three completely different types of tracks to stand a chance to make it through to that next phase of the playoffs. And what an honour for Watkins Glen International to play its role in the playoffs.
Yeah, I was excited to come up here. The crowds are always just top notch. The camping, as you drive around the racetrack, man, campsites everywhere. They're having a great time. Back here at the bus stop, which I think they're ready for you. I went ahead. What's it called again? It's the bus stop bus. The bus stop bus. Can't mess with the bus stop bus. Okay. It's back here at the mess. It'll be fine. You ask anybody in the campground, they'll tell you where to go. There it is. Yeah, right there, the bus stop bus. They got some old school. They got a little Jimmy Johnson flag. They got a seatbelt flag. They have some driver commitment issues though, because there's about 10 different driver flags on the bus. Well, in fairness, about 10 different people on the bus, so maybe they're all there. If you miss the bus stop, you have to stop right there in the straightaway. That could be their job. They can officiate. You knock the gold bowling pins over if you roll through there. I like that. So I think this is. We saw only one playoff driver make the top 5 in round 1. And that's Joey Logano, who's already locked in to the next round of playoffs because of his win last week. There's 8 more playoff guys in this group. How many of them can make the top 5 or at least get a good qualifying session? Keselowski, Blaney, Hamlin, Larson, they all have to be disappointed with theirs.
What a great look at that entry to the bus stop. This is where it all went away for Kyle Larson. He had such a promising last lap going, and it all went away from him there on the carousel. Coming to the alternate finish line. This is Austin Cindric exiting turn 1. He was the quick man from Group B throughout the 40 minutes of practice that he had. So let's see if that continues here. It's a big moment.
I think that's going to hurt his pace. You need to be wide open in the gas up through that part of the racetrack. Now a little bit of a distraction. Eric Jones in front of him. I just feel like, Steve, that's a bad part of the racetrack climate possesses, and now outside here.
Rear grip being tested and just not holding up for the driver of the 2, Austin Cindric. 1:12:04. He said, well, it may not look good, but it's the fastest lap of the day. Sometimes chaos works. Wow. And it works for Cindric. Shut it down. Cool it down. Get ready for the next round.
And how about how hard he had to work at it? Going up the S's and then through the carousel. It's a beautiful driving from Austin Cindric.
Yeah, that reminds me of Bubba Wallace's lap at Darlington, where he was out of control, hitting all the walls, doing all that stuff, and it happened.
Truex Jr. said, let me show you something. 1:11:81.
Wow.
Jeff called it. The 19, we were trying to dissect who was good in practice. And you said Truex impressed you. And he jumps to the top. Bowman is second. I told Cindric to be ready for the next round. You better hold on. This group has pace.
There might be some late runs. There's still 11.5 minutes to go. This is Kyle Busch as he jumps his way to 5th at the moment. And that was through with an excursion on the exit of the bus stop.
Gibbs and Ballard saying we would have been top 2 in the first group, and we're out of the top 5 in this group. Suarez, another car I thought looked really good in practice. Looks like he's just kind of getting up to speed here. Looks very lackadaisical, which tells me he's coming to pick the green.
And he's got to be buoyed by the pace of his teammate Ross Chastain.
I got to make it happen here. Did a great job in Atlanta. Put himself in position to win that race. Gained a ton of points. Left there in great shape. Now coming to a road course with good pace of practice. You'd have to execute on this.
I am shocked at the pace of this group. I don't believe the track could have picked up. I mean, a little bit of cloud cover, but just overall faster cars.
Daniel Suarez, less than 0.2 of a second off at the moment. Remember, that's to the top 5 time of Kyle Busch, not to the overall quickest of Mark Truex Jr. It's remaining around about that 0.2 of a second behind. There's opportunity here to make it up. A lot of guys have picked up a couple tenths in this front stop. Have to make it up on exit. Gave up a little bit of speed on entry. Not going to do it. That's too much time with that little track lap, because the alt finish is just ahead right here. So Daniel Suarez won't leap from his way for now into the top 5. Less than 10 minutes to go. Here's AJ Allmendinger. And the Dinger's just cruising. Yeah, what's interesting is he came down the front stretch. So he has gone all the way around the racetrack, but apparently, maybe this might be a strategy to put some temperature in the tires. Maybe they think they fire off better on the second lap. Maybe that's why SVG ran 2 laps. Remember, he was fastest in Group A, and we didn't get to see his first lap. It was about a 120 or 118, and we thought he had an issue, but maybe he's just cruising around. I mean, Dinger didn't even have the belts tight. He just reached up, grabbed the belts behind him. Hemrick, another Colin car with the same approach. So maybe Colin Racing feels 1 outspeed, 80% lap, gets the tires up to operating temperature. Let's see if it works for the driver, the 13. All right, here we go. Lap starts now for AJ Allmendinger. While we're watching Allmendinger, Suarez ran a second lap and he jumped to 4th. William Byron to 5th. So now Kyle Busch is on the outside. All these drivers need to pay attention to how Allmendinger, FPG are using the exit off of turn 1. It's working for them. And time's coming back. He's gaining time. Bus stop looming. 1/10 of a second off 5th place at the moment. And I think Dinger's always been one of the best in the bus stops. You see a big gain under braking. Can he carry speed through the middle? Can't really. Truex must have flew through the bus stop. Great, messing with the throttle, trying to go full throttle. Good exit pace. It's green. Here comes Dinger. And he may leapfrog his way into the top 5. And does. A great lap by AJ Allmendinger with that strategy. So he went about 1:30. So he went out, cruised around, 20 seconds off the pace, got some temperature in the tires. That must be part of the plan because SVG did the same thing in Group 1. And you mentioned the exit of 1, Jeff. Both SVG and Allmendinger are using it. It doesn't look good. It is bouncy and uncomfortable and tire rubber dust blowing, but I do believe it helps. But that might be good at the end of the...
No cars currently on racetrack, but all 19 in Group B have made at least 1 lap. Martin Truex Jr. fastest with a 71.811. Fastest lap we've seen both through practice and qualifying so far today. Alex Bowman, faster than any lap, also set in practice and qualifying, only second to Martin Truex Jr.'s fast lap here in this session. Austin Cindric, 3rd quickest right now. Daniel Suarez, 4th. And AJ Allmendinger on the hot seat in 5th. William Byron, 6th. Kyle Busch, 7th. Ty Gibbs, 8th. Christopher Bell, 9th. Austin Dillon, 10th. Ryan Preece, 11th. Daniel Hemrick, 12th. Eric Jones, 13th. Carson Hocevar, 14th. Zane Smith, 15th. Josh Berry, 16th. Harrison Burton, 17th. John Henry Nemechek, 18th. And Todd Gilliland, 19th. Kim Kuhn standing with Michael McDowell.
Miscommunication because the guys roll the car, which you do kind of in between to make sure the brakes don't work. The brakes come in fiery hot, and they said that you can't roll the car. So not a big deal. We're just talking about what you're allowed to do, what you can't do, and when those breaks happen and all that. But glad that we got the Bittabone Ford Mustang in the second round. It was close there. Really bummed we didn't get a better first lap because the goal was to try to not run 2. But we were so close to the cut line we had to, which was unfortunate. That's definitely not ideal for the next round, but really good long run speed. We haven't fired off well, and right there we were just barely good enough, but our long run speed is lights out. I think we got a really fast car for tomorrow. So yeah, we'll try to clean up this last round and see if we can pick up some more spots, have a shot at the pole, and feel good about tomorrow.
Those extra laps on the tire, how detrimental will that be to your grip in the final round of qualifying?
Well, we don't know. I mean, we know that this tire falls off, but it seems to be real heat related and not so much wear related. So I didn't notice a big difference between that first run and second run, but I definitely didn't pick up. So not terribly worried about it, but I still feel like the one car, the 22 that only made one run are going to have a slight advantage for sure.
Good to hear from Michael McDowell. Thanks, Kip, for that.
So let's unpack all the things you talked about. First, rolling the car. When you come in and the car stops up pit road, you back it into its spot, the brake pad and the rotor can almost stick to one another. They're so hot. And it's like to roll the car. It seems like they were having a conversation. I thought that would be within the rules as well, but I've been yelled at a lot for doing things that weren't supposed to. As we see, Smith jumps up to 10th on the board. And then
All right, so Zane Smith was the only car on the racetrack at that point in time as well. 0.2 of a second difference between Truex at first, Bowman at second. I can almost guarantee that Truex is not going to have to run another lap. And honestly, even Alex Bowman, Austin Cindric in those 72 O's, you would think should be safe, but guess you never know. It's part of racing. That is for certain. The average lap speed for Truex was 122.822 miles per hour as well. And this is a 2.45-mile road course, 7 turns. Least amount of turns on a road course that we have on the NASCAR Cup Series schedule. It's always been a very, very fast racetrack, dangerous track for a long time period in NASCAR. Haven't seen, thankfully, as violent of crashes here over the last several years. In this next-gen era, these cars more purpose-built for road courses than what the previous stock cars in the Cup Series were ran. That and the driver caliber just getting better on these road courses with more ran during the course of a season versus only 2 for the longest time period in NASCAR. David Newman, thanks for tuning in. Who else is here that I haven't shouted out? Shane Doey, thanks for tuning in. DJ Limo 1, Ghost of Comets Past, Random. Jose, thanks for tuning in, everybody. I try to shout out everybody I can throughout the course of these live commentary streams. Appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. 96 likes so far. Our goal was 50. Let's just keep running it up. Maybe we can set a new stream record for a practice qualifying stream this season. I don't know what that record is as of right now. I'll have to check at the end if we end up getting it or not. But greatly appreciate everybody tuning in early afternoon. We will still have coverage of today's NASCAR Xfinity Series race at 3 p.m. Eastern. We will also go live for NASCAR Cup Series coverage tomorrow afternoon at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. That is our start times for the rest of this weekend's NASCAR Cup Series action, as well as NASCAR Xfinity Series action at Watkins Glen International. A lot of cars back on the racetrack again, trying to boost themselves into the top 5 so they have a chance to re-qualify for the pole in round number 2. AJ Allmendinger on the bubble right now in 5th. Current cars on track include Christopher Bell, Austin Dillon, Ryan Preece, and William Byron. And all as of right now, tracking in the red, though Byron just a couple hundredths of a second outside. Not sure what area of the racetrack he is on at this moment. But he is flirting with AJ Allmendinger's lap time to try to break into the top 5. Christopher Bell jumps to 9th. Couple spots gained for him. And Byron was looking good, but then it looks like he lost some time in the bus stop. Falls back into the red on the graphic on USA Network's screen for lap time, and does not make it on that lap. Grace jumps up 1 spot from 12th to 11th. Kyle Busch back out on the racetrack. Remember, Busch was second fastest in practice of Group B. And Busch is also flirting with AJ Allmendinger's lap time. It's like one car is off the racetrack. Spun backwards. Looks like it's Carson Hocevar in the 77. And he seems to be stuck. Only 20 minutes left of qualifying. 20 seconds left, excuse me, of qualifying. Busch catching a lot of that dirt on the inside of the curbing off the exit of the bus stop, kind of like he did in practice. Didn't have a major hop that time. Kept control of the race car, but that did kill his lap time by quite a bit. Maybe cutting that corner a little too sharply. He was only about 1/10 of a second in the red. Came out of the bus stop and ended up 4/10 of a second off of 5th place's lap time. Again, AJ Allmendinger. So Hocevar was spun backwards, it looked like in turn 5. He's pointed back in the right direction. Waiting for traffic to zoom by. As qualifying is about to conclude. Ty Gibbs is the last car that has to finish his lap up. And there he goes. And he will not make it in either. So just like in round 1, all the fast laps came on the first lap primarily in the run. Martin Truex Jr. first in this group. Alex Bowman second. Austin Cindric third. Daniel Suarez fourth. AJ Allmendinger fifth. And those are the Fast 5 drivers who will have a chance to re-go and qualify for the pole. 6 was William Byron, Kyle Busch 7, Ty Gibbs 8, Christopher Bell 9th, Zane Smith 10th, Ryan Preece 11th, 12th for Austin Dillon, Eric Jones 13th, Daniel Hemrick 14th, Carson Hocevar 15th, Josh Berry 16th, Harrison Burton 17th, 18th for John Hunter Nemechek, and Todd Gilliland 19th. So that was your finishing results from Group B. One more round of qualifying. It'll be a 10-minute session. NASCAR going to sweep up the racetrack, just as they did between sessions earlier. Get all the dirt and some of the marbles out of the racing line of the racetrack. And then we will get this final session underway. After qualifying's wrapped up, we'll go through the starting lineup for tomorrow's race before we end the stream. And again, 3 p.m. Eastern, a little over an hour from now, we will go live for NASCAR Xfinity Series racing at Watkins Glen in their second to last race of the regular season. Shane's time in Group A, yeah, it was the best time. Lap time in general, it wasn't as fast as Truex, Bowman, or Cindric. But it was fastest in that group. I think it was a 72-2, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of cars picked up in pace in that second round of qualifying. Yeah, 22.227. 22.227 for SVG in round 1. It's a lot more pace in round 2, but we tend to see that on most ovals, with these teams being able to look at the SMT data while the other cars are on racetrack, and they were able to pick up then. I don't think you're going to see that vast of a difference between Group A and Group B again in this final round. You wouldn't think you'd see that on a road course with as many turns as there are and different ways of trying to finesse these different corners on the racetrack. But apparently it still mattered. Enough so that, again, Group B was significantly quicker than Group A. So again, your Fast 5 from Group A: SVG, Ross Chastain, Joey Logano, Noah Gragson, Michael McDowell. And then from Group B, it'll be Martin Truex Jr., Alex Bowman, Austin Cindric, Daniel Suarez, and AJ Allmendinger. So 5 non-playoff drivers and 5 playoff drivers in this final round of qualifying. 2 Xfinity regulars, AJ Allmendinger and SVG, are in this final round of qualifying, leaving Chastain, McDowell, and Gragson, the 3 non-playoff drivers that are running full-time in the Cup Series, that have all qualified in the top 10. And again, we'll be re-qualifying for those positions. We'll take our final break while we're waiting this final round of qualifying. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe for more NASCAR content on the daily. Listening live on KRC to Go Bowling at the Glen, qualifying for the NASCAR Cup Series. Again, jet dryers and sweeper trucks are out on the racetrack trying to blow the marbles off of the racing line that have been kicked up from the grassy dirt areas around the curbing. So 10 minutes to try and MGD 5604, thanks for tuning in. Dale Oplinger, thanks for tuning in. No need to shout out, but hope you're great. Well, I shouted you out anyway, and thanks for tuning in. And yeah, appreciate each and every one of you guys that are watching on another NASCAR race weekend. We're running out of NASCAR race weekends, everybody. We only have eight more races left after this weekend. 2 more months. But as we're going down the home stretch, you can argue it might be the 2 best months as we get to decide the champion over these next few months. Points racing is going to be huge throughout these final 8 races, 9 races. 9 if you count, obviously, today. Today and tomorrow. I was having some buffering on my phone on the NBC Sports app, so I logged into Hulu to try to get it up on USA Network. There we go. Yeah, I'm good now. You have to let me know in the chat, anybody that was maybe watching on NBC Sports app, if you guys are having some issues there as well over the last few minutes. But it is on USA Network. Only the first hour was exclusively on the NBC Sports app, but from 12:30 p.m. Eastern onward, the rest of this weekend's coverage will be on the USA Network. Same for the Xfinity and Cup races this weekend. Chase Briscoe stayed with Kim Kuhn for an interview post round 1 qualifying.
Tied the first round, and the second time I kind of messed up, but then nobody else was really picking up speed, and we were able to pick up like 6 or 7 tenths. Really saved us, truthfully. I think now we're the second highest playoff guy in our group, so yeah, it was a good recovery for a highpoint.com Ford. But yeah, I don't know, like my car doesn't feel that bad, but it's not super great either, and I don't know. I don't really know what I could have done different there to really win any faster. I was joking with my guys. I think we only missed it by a couple thousandths. Maybe I should have put my hand up on the window like we do at Daytona and Talladega down the front backstretch, but other than that, yeah, I don't really know what I could have done to go any faster.
Thanks, Jay.
Yeah, thank you.
This team comes in at minus 21 to the elimination line. That's the tip to his teammate, Noah Gragson, who did make it to the final round of qualifying. Are there opportunities to do something differently as you attack the racetrack during this session to find speed?
Yeah, I think it's tough. We ran 2 laps, so we were 2 runs in that first section. We were 4th and didn't really know if somebody's gonna run faster, so we wanted a little bit of insurance there, and we saw during practice and during qualifying. Briscoe did a good job picking up on his 3rd lap out, but I went slower on my 2nd. So I think the guys who only ran 1 lap are going to have a little bit of advantage. Truex was really fast in that 2nd session, and it seemed like all those guys were super fast in the second group. So just making a clean, tidy lap is the most important thing for myself personally, and not getting too far off track and too sideways. Just being really smooth on my inputs and really locking in for it. So we'll see what we got here. We got a few more laps on the tires and maybe some of the guys who were ended up first or second in our groups, but we're gonna give our hell out there for sure.
All right, we'll see what Noah Gragson and these 9 other drivers have in the final round of qualifying that's coming up next from the Glen.
Is it possible that we see Martin Truex Jr. on the pole in one of his final races in his NASCAR Cup Series full-time career? He was fastest overall through round 1. That would have been for either Group A or Group B. He participated in Group B. He was the only driver all weekend to run a lap time sub 72 seconds. So we'll see what that will translate here in round 2. Again, only 10 minutes, and we will begin that as soon as they come back from this next commercial break that is currently airing on the USA Network. CeeLo, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. Pick 1, Truex, 2, SVG, 3, McDowell. Some good picks. All have won on a road course in the Cup Series level as well. 30% have SVG, 30% at other, so we got a tie. That's the only reason I haven't closed the poll yet. So be sure to vote. I want to see if we can break that tie before I end it. Between SVG or somebody other than SVG, essentially at this point. SVG, Larson, or Reddick. Larson and Reddick both failed to make it into the second and final round of qualifying. So now we're at where we're at. Once again, the 10 drivers going for the pole. SVG, Ross Chastain, Joey Logano, Noah Gragson, Michael McDowell, Martin Truex Jr., Austin Cindric, Alex Bowman, Daniel Suarez, and AJ Allmendinger. Connor Zilic will be on the pole for today's Xfinity Series race, driving the 88 car full-time next season. He'll be in that same Junior Motorsport 88 car later today. And has been ran by a bunch of part-time drivers throughout the season. Haven't seen it go to victory lane yet this year. We'll see if Zilic from the pole can do just that. Definitely his racing prowess on the road courses. Qualified on the pole in the truck race at COTA last season as well. Earlier this year, excuse me. Feels like last season since we've been there so early in the year. We'll get to see what he can do behind an Xfinity Series car for this one today. It's the young 18-year-old. Trying to go for his first career win. So the 10-minute clock has already started. And we've got cars as of right now just trying to get some heat in the tires, scuffing them off, getting up to speed. Both Trackhouse cars in this final round. Suarez, Chastain, they seem to be the first two on the racetrack. Chastain going through the bus stop, pretty decent pace. Chastain backing his pace up a little more compared to Suarez here. Chastain was quicker than Suarez through round 1 based off his positioning order. They were each in separate groups. Suarez to the timing line. 8:40 on the clock.
Really quickly here in the freeway.com Chevy for Trackhouse. Alternate finish line. He just crossed it, so his lap begins now. 8.5 minutes left on the clock. This is where you're trying to push it. You're trying to carry as much speed under braking. As soon as the car points, gets to the bottom, go back to the throttle, use all the racetrack and more. And the 9th best time. from qualifying when you break it down from Group A to Group B.
Braking markers on the left hand of the racetrack. 2 marks. Focus on this exit. Use all the curb.
Nice.
Now immediately. Now dip is about accelerating as soon as you can, leaving because again, a long straight head to the start finish line.
This has been a smooth lap from Daniel Suarez. Now remember the best time we've seen so far today, Mark Truex Jr. at a 1:11.8. That first time by was 1:12.7. Here comes his teammate, Ross Chastain.
Yeah, Suarez left a little on the table.
On. He leapfrogs him by some 6/5 of a second. So Chastain on top, 7 minutes left. He's Alex Bowman.
I think Suarez actually left a lot on the table.
Good start. Jeffy's in the green, using every bit of road he had there.
And now the key is to carry speed up this hill. Massive elevation change. Wasn't able to carry as much speed as Chastain was. Still a shot, though. Has to be perfect in the bus stop.
He is the representative for Hendrick Motorsports in this top 10 qualifying. And a really solid performance last weekend to start the playoffs in Atlanta, which is what he needed to steady the ship. The winner from the Chicago street race, he's about a quarter of a second off at the moment. Comes across that alternate finish line, but does do enough to leap from his way in the second at the moment. Shane Van Gisbergen rolls off for Corlin Racing. The man who'll race for Trackhouse next year. Ross Chastain told Kim that he appreciated everything that he's learned from SVG so far, as far as road courses and qualifying and getting the most out of your car in this situation.
And we see that he is willing to use the most amount of racetrack on the exit of turn 1, almost hitting the wall, leading turn 1, approaching the S's. Colin Grayson has never won a pole in the Cup Series.
It might today.
It might. Great speed, and we know this guy could do it. In the Xfinity race here in a few hours.
Just like his calling teammate this weekend, AJ Allmendinger. The Dinger will roll out his.
Yeah, SVG is going to be starting 13th in that Xfinity Series race later today, but automatically in the top 10 for this Cup Series race that will be taking place tomorrow. SVG had the fastest round 1 Group A lap time, and he is currently on the racetrack as of right now. Chastain top of the leaderboard of only 3 that have completed a lap in this 10-minute final round of qualifying. Some of these drivers from Group B may be waiting to go out, giving their engines a little bit more time to cool. Although Bowman and Suarez were in Group B, so maybe that's not the case. Cindric also on the racetrack. SVG is currently tracking in the green by a few hundredths of a second over Chastain's lap time. Lost some time in the S's, though. The second set of turns uphill in the S's is where SVG lost time to Chastain compared to Ross's lap. And SVG by a couple tenths of a second is now in the red. Austin Cindric in the red as well by about a tenth of a second or so. SVG picked up a little bit in the bus stop turn 5, but I don't think it's going to be enough to take that top spot away. We'll see if he stays on the racetrack and tries to put one more lap. Might as well try it. Can't hurt anything. Well, unless you wreck. I guess that would hurt, but assuming he doesn't. He had a big bounce off that last curb exiting the bus stop. But even if it wasn't for that, I don't think he was going to get the top spot anyway. Cindric to 4th, ahead of Suarez. 5 drivers have completed a lap. Chastain first, currently SVG second, Bowman third, Cindric 4th, and Suarez 5th. The 5 that still have to complete a lap would be Logano, Gregson, McDowell, Truex, and Allmendinger. Logano is on a lap right now. Just getting to the start-finish line. And he's tracking a couple tenths of a second in the red to that of Chastain. Chastain trying to go for his first pole of 2024. Was second quickest in practice. made his way into the final round of qualifying. He might have a chance to go for the pole. Ross could be one of the favorites for tomorrow just based off the speed here this weekend. Definitely looks quick. His lap time is over 0.2 of a second faster than SVG's. Remember, Ross only had 1 lap on his tires from round 1 to round 2. SVG had 2 laps. That could be the huge difference maker. The only other drivers off the top of my head I can think of that had 1 lap on their tires is Truex. So Truex might be the best candidate to try to take down Chastain's lap time. And of course, Martin Truex was the quickest. Truex currently in the bus stop. And he's even tracking in the red by about 1/10 or 2 compared to Chastain. So it doesn't look like Martin's going to be able to back his round 1 lap time up. 2 minutes on the clock. Again, if you start your lap before the clock hits zeros, you can finish it after it hits zeros. But if you don't get to the time and scoring line, which is alternate in turns, in between turns 6 and 7, 5 and 6 rather, straight away between turns 5 and 6, is the alternate start-finish line. But you cannot make another lap if the clock is at zeros, though, before you get to that time and scoring line. Still have unlimited amount of laps that you can run in this 10-minute session. Haven't seen anybody that went out for an early lap to try to go back out there again. I would imagine Suarez might, only because his lap time was well off compared to a lot of these other drivers. Although I say that, Noah Gragson even worse than that. Gragson now 9. Truex came close to Chastain's lap time compared to anybody else. Second for Truex with a 72.264. But that's still over 1/10 off of Chastain. So Chastain still remains on the pole as of right now. Last driver to complete a lap in this session is Michael McDowell. And we have just a little less than a minute left. And McDowell's 0.4 of a second, now a 1/2 a second in the red. Not a great lap going for Michael. He ran, I believe, 3 laps in round 1, so he's got even an extra lap on his tires compared to some of these other guys that ran, obviously, 1 or 2. And McDowell is going to have the worst time of the 10. And nobody else is on track to run a second lap in this final round, so Ross Chastain is going to qualify on the pole here at Watkins Glen International, his first pole of the 2024 NASCAR Cup Series season. Gragson did stay out on the racetrack to run a second lap, but he is tracking in the red by well over a 1/2 a second. And it sounds like McDowell is still on track trying to pick up lap time as well. Gragson and McDowell were 9th and 10th on their laps. McDowell is not going to be anywhere close to Chastain's lap time as well. I'll tell you what, Chastain looks weirder without a beard. He looks weird in the sense that I'm not used to seeing it. It doesn't even look like the same dude. It looks like some random 20-year-old. Definitely looks younger. It doesn't look like Ross. I'm like, who is that in the Busch Light fire suit? That's not Ross. Apparently it is. Yeah, Denny's not great at Watkins Glen. Truex having the points deficit is going to be interesting on if he can overcome that here and at Bristol. Denny could go out and win Bristol. I mean, won there earlier this year, so we'll see. Here's Kim Coon with Chastain, who's on the pole.
We're attached to this pole rim right now. What is the emotion you're feeling?
So much work, Kim. Just turning right seems so simple, but gosh, it's just been such a challenge for me. I went to Skip Barber driving school to learn how to turn right. I've leaned on Josh Wise and Scott Speed so much. The instructors at Skip Barber, Chevrolet has taken us out to Spring Mountain and done schooling with Ron Fellows and instructors there. And it wasn't any one thing. It was so many years of trying to learn how to do this. And For a Bushline Chevy, this is just a career moment, a lifetime achievement to go faster than everybody in the Cup Series. It's unbelievable for Trackhouse and myself.
Sounds like Ross Chastain's at a loss for words. Second career pole gets it done here at Watkins Glen. Will lead the field to green tomorrow.
Such a cool place to get that pole.
All right, we'll go over the starting lineup for tomorrow's race. Again, congratulations to Ross Chastain, second career pole. Here's the stat line for you. Last time he qualified on the pole was Nashville last year. The only other time in his Cup career he won that race. So maybe Chastain the favorite for tomorrow to upset the playoff field. Martin Truex Jr. will be starting on the front row as well as he qualifies second, first in round 1, second though in round 2. SVG and Alex Bowman make up row 2. Row 3 for Austin Cindric, AJ Allmendinger. Row 4 will be Joey Logano and Daniel Suarez. In row 5, it'll be Noah Gragson and Michael McDowell. William Byron with Chase Briscoe in row 6. Kyle Busch and Chase Elliott row 7. Row 8 for Ty Gibbs and Tyler Reddick. In row number 9... Had to fast forward there a little bit. Row number 9 is going to be Christopher Bell and Zane Smith. And then we'll end up having Kyle Larson and Ryan Preece behind them in row 10. Row 11, Denny Hamlin, Austin Dillon. Chris Buescher, Eric Jones in row number 12. Row 13 for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Daniel Hemrick. Row 14, Brad Keselowski, Carson Hocevar. Ryan Blaney starting deep in the field as well. Row 15 with Josh Berry. Row 16, Bubba Wallace and Harrison Burton. And row 17, Juan Pablo Montoya with John Hunter Nemechek. Row 18 for Justin Haley and Todd Gilliland. And rounding out the field of 38 cars in row 19 will be Kaz Grala and Corey LaJoie on race day tomorrow. So we'll see if Chastain can go 2 for 2 in his Cup career with getting a pole and a win in the same weekend. Appreciate everybody tuning in for today's live commentary of the NASCAR Cup Series practice and qualifying taking place here at the Watkins Glen International, first of 2 road course races in the playoffs, our second race of the round of 16. NASCAR's Xfinity Series coverage will begin at 3 p.m. Eastern, top of the next hour, and we'll go live for tomorrow's Cup Series coverage about 24 hours from now at 2:30 p.m. Eastern tomorrow afternoon. So thanks for everybody tuning in for this one. See you guys in about another 45 minutes or so, and thanks for watching as always. Be sure to hit the like button if you haven't yet. Well more than 100 people watching. We only have 106 likes, so smash that like button. Hit the subscribe button as well if you haven't yet for more daily NASCAR content. And yeah, see you soon.